Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Rod, Twadwassel, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Kennebear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
But it's kind of roomy, so I would get it. 129,000 miles on it. I think it's a 20. I want to say 2012. But boy, this car drove beautiful.
Seems like we've accidentally got a cross connection with the car dealership. We're getting their infantry rattled out to us for some reason. I don't get it. Oh, it seems to have resolved itself. That's good. Whew.
So you didn't hear me?
Yeah, we heard you. Giving us car specs.
Yeah, so I really want to get this car. But of course, I was approved, but not approved. They want to see bank statements with my name on it, and that's kind of a problem.
I see.
I have them, but the guy used to sell the money into my wife's account. So it's in her name. I mean, I made the money, but it's not lining up. So another freaking obstacle.
Hey everyone, hey Nathan.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
What's up, Brian?
Good. I just want to cut in for a second. Have you got a video scheduled for today you're going to do a response to?
One of our Patreons has asked me to cover something that you've completely thrown off me. I knew it had in the mind, and someone else wants me to cover something as well. Say again?
Is math real? No.
No, that was the last video we did. I just don't change the title. I'm lazy.
I posted one today right after your link.
The Van Allen belts. I'm pretty sure that was who was it? It was one of my patrons sent me an email. I think it was Christoph Fournier. God, if I've got that wrong, I'm really sorry. But I'm pretty sure he was like, I want to cover the Van Allen belts. I'll go and dig out my iPad. I'll be back in a second.
So that's why Nathan doesn't change the thumbnails for the next day. I thought there was something to it, but I guess not. Well, there is still something to it, but not what I thought.
Yeah, I was not expecting lazy to be the answer.
Sorry, I missed that. I was
guess
just
not.
grabbing my iPad.
Oh,
Yeah, Van Allen belts.
I
yeah.
was always wondering why that happened, eh? Why the same thumbnail from yesterday was on the same title. I thought there was something else to it. I didn't expect what you just said.
It's not, it is laziness. I can do it. It just means going into a completely different subset of menus. Now, for the show, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 buttons that I press to load software at the start of each show. And each of them needs to be tweaked in a certain way. And, you know, some of them you have to go in 2 steps, some of them you have to go in 3 steps in the software to do whatever you need to do to make it work, right? Well, for every step, that adds a minute. And you just get to a point where you're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to change the thumbnail. Because it means, number one, I've got to make it before the show. And you don't know what the show's going to be about. So that I don't try and dictate the direction of the show, I'd rather, like we're doing now, we're going, what do we want to cover tomorrow? Or today, in this instance. What do we want to cover? Well, I've got a Patreon that wants us to talk about the Van Allen belts, so I'm sure we can. But if I've already made a thumbnail, I'm like, I'm not talking about that. I want to talk about suspension of disbelief because it's part of my thumbnail. You know what I mean? So I just leave it as the thumbnail from the previous show, which I have worked on. It has had some effort, so it's at least a nice thumbnail. But it's just for the number before until after the show. And then as soon as the show finishes, sometimes while the show's still running, I'll make a thumbnail. And then, because it's relevant to the topics that we've discussed. So then when someone looks at the thumbnail, it's not just clickbait. It's what's, pertinent. So if we've discussed Sabine Hosselenfelder, then she'll be in a 3D cube from her video as she's made the trouble of making the CGI. I'll steal it and put our show number next to it. But it's just obviously not relevant to today's show. But the number is. So I do change the number each day because that's in one of the menus I do have to go in to make the live show ready to be broadcast. So we'll change the number at least.
So
your
Tim, you
system's pretty good then.
reaffirmed his. He presses 12 buttons.
To load,
That's right.
no.
You button pusher.
Yeah, 12 buttons to load lots of different pieces of software that all run concurrently. Is that right?
Concurrently?
Concurrently.
At
Together.
the same time.
Or simultaneously.
Simultaneously. Yeah.
You know how I know it is concurrently? Because if it's consecutive, I know that from jail sentences that it does not run together. It runs separate.
Yeah, consecutive would be one after the next, right?
Yeah, you want it running concurrent.
The only reason I asked about that is because there's a video I'm after posting in a couple of days. We won't do it today, obviously. We only do the one from the Patreon. But it's Dr. Becky, and it's new theories about gravity. Like, we're talking last week about them trying, and the past couple of weeks about them trying to move away from general relativity. Well, this is new, non-scientific, colloquial theories about gravity. So we don't have to do it now, but I can throw it in there during the week.
Well, can we talk about the Van Allen belts? Just so we have actually...
Brian,
that's fine.
Speaking about that, my son has been driving me nuts since he got into this quantum mechanics. It's every single day. Now it's quantum entanglement's been proven scientifically. Oh gosh, I can't even ignore him anymore. It's just constant.
Bring him back to scientific method and then ask him where's the DV. Ask him to produce the DV for any of these things that he's claiming is quantum mechanics.
It all takes place in space-time.
Well, just take it the British direction, which would be to be, supportive, but also condescending. That's very nice, son. Very well done.
Where do you observe this?
Pat in the head. Sorry.
Yes, and where do you observe this space-time?
No. Well done, son. Very good.
You don't, and I do,
Yeah.
Nathan. Nathan, I do that. So I do it the English way, but inside I'm boiling because he just keeps going and going and going, and the other two guys are listening, and I'm like, Jacob, please, this is not real.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. I might have told you before, but I'll tell you it now. Right? It's very derogatory towards somebody I like, but there we go. That's just how the story went. Chuckling before I've even told it. So we went over to see Martin Liedtke. It's probably getting on for 8 years ago now. It's a long time ago. Seems like yesterday, but it wasn't. His mum was still alive at the time, right? So she was in the same house as him.
Shite.
Oh, you ruined my punchline. Right, piss off. I'm going on mute. Sod you.
I knew it. I wanted to do that. Sorry, dude.
Hey, Neil.
I know where you were going.
I don't know what the story is now, Neil. He won't say it.
Go ahead, Dave. Just say it. It's a good story.
If this silence is because of me, I'm going on strike. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, Nathan. No. So, Neil, back to you. So, you should know better then, right? Since you won't leave Nathan talk, you should know better. You should be asking your son for the DV and IV for general relativity. Ask them where is the hypotheses. Sorry, I can't talk. I have a chest cold.
Brian, hold on. That's the first
hypothesis for general relativity from Einstein.
But that's what I asked.
That's because what's the point of talking about any of these other things? No point in giving out about your son talking about these other things when you're not asking them for the very thing you should be asking them for.
That's the first thing I asked them for.
Is
what
he...
it's all about. It's theory of relativity. I said, Jacob, it's not real. There's no IV. There's no DP. It's not scientifically validated through experimentation. It's not science.
Okay, Neil. Very good.
Oh, Neil.
You didn't hear me? You didn't hear me? I'm sorry.
You've done very well with your son, Neil. Very good.
Neil, did you
pay more attention, Neil?
Well, my link for the show, if you get done with your Patreons, is why science is not just a theory. So it would match the topic today.
Well, if the topic was Van Allen belts, what's Van Allen done? Has he observed natural phenomena? Has he established cause and effect reasoning with systematic experimentation, or has he just arbitrarily labelled a point in the sky? He's arbitrarily labelled a point in the sky, hasn't he? And he's claiming that point is spherical in a begging the question assumption of R. So Van Allen, what's he really got?
I don't know. I haven't watched the video, but if he's posted the video, go ahead and do it.
It's just a dude for the Van Allen radiation belts. They typically get referenced when we talk about, well, not me, but when quote unquote flat earthers in a stereotype talk about the moon landings, and they don't expose the fact that you can't have gas pressure without a container, they'll often get subverted into talking about the Van Allen belts because they say, oh, well, the guys who went to the moon didn't suffer any radiation from the Van Allen belts. Okay. Meanwhile, the Van Allen belts are existing in a place that doesn't exist. It's like the gas lamp in Narnia or the temperature differential in Narnia. It's like, who cares about the Van Allen belts in space moving out in a spherical nature from our presupposed orbital R-based spherical world in a vacuum? When we don't live in a vacuum, we can debunk the sphere idea. The whole heliocentric model isn't the world we live in. But what I've got to worry about is bloody belts that some dude has just decided to arbitrarily name after himself. Yeah, no, I don't care. But there you go. That's my summary of the Van Allen belts. But I'm being very dismissive because there's certain aspects of the Van Allen belts that are just irrelevant to me, so I probably don't know about them. Whereas someone might spring them on me and I go, oh, I'll just give the same response. What are we talking about here? Something that exists in Narnia. Who cares? But maybe you can expand on it beyond what I would for my Patreon, which is he's got what I can give him. You know what I mean? That's it.
Has he given you a video to review?
No, he's just asked us to talk about the Van Allen belts in a very general way.
Okay,
how...
Go on, because we're going to be late if we don't get to the end of this conversation.
Just before we go off the topic, how does radiative heat build up? That's what needs to be.
How does radiated heat? You're going to need a container for that. Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah. How do you build up radiative heat without a container? You can't.
You don't.
Even though it's not conductive or convective, but you still need a container.
Right. Oh, come on, connect live. Come on, YouTube, you can do it. The minute you're late, when you're late and you want it to connect quickly, that's when you sat around for ages for the go live button to go red. That, or there's a major streaming problem. Hopefully it's not the latter. We may as well talk about ourselves for a bit because the streaming connection's not... It's saying excellent connection, but I don't trust it till it shows me a... There we go. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Chocolate Sane, joining right in the middle of my intro, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, Brian's Logic, 10th Man Rising, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Greetings.
Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Let's get it on.
I'm glad you're all excited. We were arguing in the pre-show about what we were going to do, and one of my patrons specifically asked me if we can cover the Van Allen belts. So we did that in the pre-show. Obviously, being a member, you can catch up with that because we already covered it. But just to let you know, as you specifically emailed saying, "Can you cover the Van Allen belts?" Yeah, we can. They exist in a place that isn't real. They exist in Narnia. They beg the question of an hour and a sphere-shaped air that's not expanding into a vacuum, and have been arbitrarily assigned by some dude. Typically, they're just referred to as the area that would have killed the astronauts when they travelled through Narnia. But we don't tend to get to that here because of space being fake. Therefore, Van Allen belts, what of them? Anybody else got anything to add in regards to the Van Allen belts? Specifically for my Patreon.
That's my favorite region of space that apparently Mr. Orion, Trial by Fire from NASA, said that we need to figure out before we could send people to this region of space. We need to solve these problems. Apparently, he forgot. They didn't put him onto the briefing where supposedly we had 6 missions that went through this region of space between 69 and 72. If we're dipping our toes in Narnia. Shut up, Neil.
That don't count, so because they didn't know about it.
Yeah, but they didn't know about it where? In space. Okay, so equivalence to... Okay, back in the stories of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, when they traversed the portal that is the wardrobe, yeah, they had coats. They were already available to them. So, by equivalence, you've got the heat or cold being the Van Allen belt radiation, right? Now, they overcame the problem back in the 50s and 60s, let's just say, by putting on the coats that were available to them. Whereas in the current rhetoric, the door's there, the wardrobe's there, the portal works, Narnia's real, but there aren't any coats. So they have to overcome this problem of the coats that were there. I mean, they're furs. They kind of degraded and now they've gone and you can't get that technology back. It's very difficult to build up coats. But eventually they'll build up coats and then they'll go through the wardrobe into Narnia and all will be solved. But back in the 50s and 60s, I'm sure they didn't even know that they had a problem, but they just stuck the coats on and went through the wardrobe because they could see that it was snowing. Well, likewise, they just went into the region of space that isn't real back in the days of the moon landing, and they weren't concerned with something that had been arbitrarily ascribed to an area by Mr. Van Allen because it hadn't been arbitrarily ascribed yet to the area of Narnia that they were going to traverse. That's the general long and short of the fake area called space that we have to concern ourselves with in regards to its radiation properties when the area is not real. Likewise, we don't have to worry about how cold it is in Narnia. Okie dokie.
I might just add one thing.
But that's a pretty bad continuity error, wouldn't you think? Like, even if we're just swimming around in Narnia right now within the story, that's a bad continuity error. When I first saw that, I was like, wait a minute, is this a joke? This can't be like really from NASA saying this. But it's like they say these things and it just glosses over people who even believe that these missions occurred. It's crazy.
Well, it may be a bad continuity error, but it is a bad debating point to bring up because you have to accept that you live on a sphere Earth in a vacuum before you can assert it.
Oh, no doubt. But I like the continuity of things. Things need to make sense, right? Like, even if we're not getting into the debating points, things need to make sense. Your story needs to make sense if you're going to run around saying the same story.
That's not strictly
Right?
true.
Yeah.
Well,
That's not strictly true. So again, it just happens to be something I studied at college. So you're talking about the suspension of disbelief versus continuity errors and plot holes. Well, so long as the plot hole or continuity error does not destroy the suspension of disbelief, then it's actually tolerable. Massive plot holes are permissible in movies, so long as they don't ruin the immersion in the movie. Now, if you walk out the cinema and go, hang on a second, what happened to that character that was quite important to the plot early on? They just write that person out halfway through this, and you go, oh yeah, but did it matter in the movie? No. The plot hole's not relevant as you watched the movie. It didn't ruin your suspension of disbelief. Likewise, this disconnect between there being a Van Allen belt now that we've got to overcome to get into space, or Narnia, doesn't necessarily take the average Joe normally out of the suspension of disbelief that we already have traversed that area to get to the moon. They don't have a disconnect, so the suspension of disbelief is still intact for average normie because they've got a very short attention span.
no, there's something else going on.
Hold on a second. Wait, Brian,
Hang
before you
on.
go,
Let me toying. Go on, off you go.
go ahead then. Go ahead, Brian. I just wanted to say
No,
that.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say it doesn't matter because they believe it anyway. People have told me that if they didn't know about it, it's mind over matter. The radiation would not have affected them. That's what people say. So Nathan's right. Doesn't matter. They're still going to believe it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the reason they believe it is because they always connect these things to what people believe is the real world. And how they make that connection is the ozone layer. So people believe there is this layer, now a layer of ozone that's protecting us from harmful radiation coming from the sun. This is what they have people believing. Now, the ozone layer does not exist. What does exist is ozone gas at 22 miles up, but there is no layer of ozone gas when you look into what happens, how it's created, what's needed to create it, and all the things that actually destroy it. And then you look into how much gas is up there per meter cubed at that height, right? So they tie it back into reality for people with things like the ozone layer, but the ozone layer in particular, because that's supposed to be a shield from all this radiation. And the Van Allen belts are part of this radiation monster. And that's what they do. And that's what it all comes back to. People believing that there is this ozone layer and that there might have been a hole in it. There was never a layer to begin with.
When did it come out, Brian? When did they start promoting this ozone layer? Like in schools and everything.
Well, they promote this
70s.
Ozone homogeneous layer of gases that have got nothing but inherent gaps between them. And then the gap in the gaps. They're just laughing at us.
Yeah.
You mean the same ones they call the greenhouse gases?
Yeah, greenhouse gases, right. The ones that contain us because of their greenhouse-like nature, because they're like glass. Yeah, well, they're all nonsense. Okay.
Let's go one step worse. Just one step worse. Where was the hole in the claimed ozone layer? What part of the world did this hole happen over?
I don't know. I remember.
But they stopped.
Was it
Antarctica? Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing funny there.
Please. Yeah. Never mind.
Those poor penguins.
Nothing to see there.
Those poor penguins, don't you laugh.
Yeah,
Don't
but
you laugh.
I stopped using aerosol cans back in the 80s, and I used to love hairspray, man. And I stopped using it because I was afraid that I was going to be a partaker in creating a hole even bigger, and we'd all die. It's fear.
Yes, it used to be.
The Al Gore scare you to death?
It was pre-Al Gore, but it was, back like Neil says, in the 80s, they literally had hairspray cans that were like, this one contains CFCs, this one's bad for the globe, and then, little pictures of ozones, little layers around globes and crosses through them, as in this is going to be bad for the ozone layer on hairspray cans.
But you hit the nail on the head there, Nathan, because they're always saying this thing and that thing is bad for the planet, bad for the globe. It's a model. They're telling people this is bad for the model we have you all believing in.
Right on.
That's what they do.
Meanwhile, what are they telling you not to use? a container with gas in it.
Okay, I just want to do another little sort of housekeeping, but sort of not. So I occasionally regale the audience with stories of how I go to other different random topics because I'm trying to get away from Flat Earth. Not because I don't like Flat Earth, but as my version of escapism. When you're watching Coronation Street, I'll be watching something about something totally random on YouTube. Anyway, one of the things that's less than random, I do actually have an interest in, is computing. And I went to a computer channel who was doing a live stream about computing. And in the comments or in the live stream chat was Shelley. Now, some of you may be familiar with Shelley, but she's a girl that comes along, comments on Flat Earth videos, obviously a Flat Earther, knows about space being fake. And when I joined the chat, she's in there telling the host, yeah, the rockets you're talking about, they just sent them out to the ocean. They just crashed in the ocean. Yeah, you just don't know anything. Stick to computer parts. She's probably laying into the guy from the live stream chat. I'm like, oh, hello. So I said, hello, Shelley. And she doesn't notice and carries on ranting at him a little bit. But then I thought, well, I'll pipe up at this point because he rattled off a few questions right at the end of his live stream. Now, I'm going to plug the guy because I actually like the guy's channel. So I will give the guy a proper plug, as in not say anything detrimental. He's just a normie as far as this subject matter is concerned. Okay, so just get that out of your head that this guy's in any way our enemy. He's not. He's just a normie. Right, but this is the channel is called Not an Apple Fan. Okay, that's the name of the channel. But as I say, right at the end of his live stream, he made several claims, and I did leave him a comment saying, do you want me to respond to these? Now, I didn't actually go back and check whether or not he did. I just photographed it and screenshot it rather, and thought, all right, I'll cover that onto the show, just because it's a few questions that I know that if I don't want to get my teeth into necessarily in his comment section, it's a useful little bit in the show, right? Now, again, I don't necessarily care if you let him know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. That's not necessarily appropriate in this instance because I don't want the guy to, suddenly, get bombarded by flat earthers when it's just a normie talking about tech stuff who happened to have a flat earther goading him in his comment section. And she did a good job. But it meant that he raised several claims, which I am going to go through in a minute. Well, actually, I'll just read out my comment to him. It might be a bit too small on screen. So, love your videos and live streams. The cynicism is outstanding. I come for the tech. However, outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. In all seriousness, look up the second law of thermodynamics, aka entropy law. New paragraph. Would you like me to address your claims at the end of your show? I make video responses to these exact claims live daily. Like we are now, right? Okay, so I'm going to go through the questions in a sec. Obviously, I sign off and say, keep up the great work with the tech stuff. In other words, that's the kind of comment that when I'm encouraging you, the audience, to go and say, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, that's the kind of thing, if it was an absolutely ideal world, you'd do. You'd note something of positive nature in their videography as a YouTuber, tell them that you like their video, tell them that I sent you, a crap sandwich is how you describe it if you're going to give something negative. Well, it's the opposite. The negative bit is that the only negative bit is that someone sent you. But that can be spun into positivity too if they don't know why I've sent you. So you just say, oh, I love your videos. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. He happened to respond to your excellent responses or your excellent opinions on gravity. That is all positive and won't get your comment deleted. And likewise, I don't want my comment to get deleted by this guy. So I start by saying, I love your videos and live streams. So he knows I'm a fan of Not an Apple Fan. Rather than just seeing me as a troll that's just there to talk about what I want to talk about rather than appreciating his hard work. So anyway, if you want to go and subscribe, by the way, if you like cynical looks at computer hardware where he's moaning about how terrible everything is, for the right reasons, he's well researched, then he's very good and amusing to watch. There we go. So check out Not an Apple Fan if you so desire. But I want the panel, or indeed the Discord server if they choose to, after I shout out this super chat, to respond to the questions that he put forth, or claims that he put forth towards the end of his last live stream, which was yesterday evening, maybe 18 hours ago. Anyway, Godzilla37 sent a super chat, so I'll just read that out just quickly, and then we'll move back to this guy. When tree huggers, in quotes, start running around putting butt plugs into cows to save the planet, right then, you know it's not worth saving. What, the cow, the planet, the tree hugger? You're going to have to be more specific with that. But thank you for the super chat. Let's talk about butt plugs in the future super chat, so thank you very much. Okie dokie.
He's talking about AOC that wanted to ban cows.
Say one more time. Was that the book?
Talking about AOC, the Democrat Puerto Rican lady from New York, the bartender. One of her things on the Green Deal was that they wanted to ban cows because of fart pollution.
Oh yes, I do vaguely remember that. Yes.
Yeah, please ban cow farting.
Yeah, well, they produce a huge amount of methane, but it's like, well, so what? What are you going to do next? Ban algae? Like, what? I don't know. Producing gases is what a lot of organisms do. It's just the way it is. It's not a problem. Unless you make it one, and then you can tax it. Anyway. Okay, right. Let's go through these questions then. So these are the claims that this particular guy, the not an Apple fan guy, put forth towards the end of his live stream in response to being goaded by Shelley. Okay, so Earth isn't flat. We have hills. Who wants to tackle that?
No hills.
Flat's not a shape.
Who said that? You said flat's not a shape.
All game.
Okay, not relevant to the question, but still very true.
Yeah.
His assertion is that because we have hills and valleys, that is to say the undulations in the, I was going to say topology, but it's topography, are his assertion that we don't have an overall flat baseline that we measure and reference to. That's his assertion. We have hills, therefore Earth's not flat.
Well,
Brian, go first. Go ahead, Brian.
Bev's whiteboard is flat, but it's not 2D. Kind of like your kitchen table and your kitchen floor and your sitting room floor. They're all flat, but they're not 2D. It's flat as a description and not a shape, as that lad just said. So it's not flat is not a geometric claim. It's a description of the overall.
Nathan gave the best description when he did the bookshelf. Remember the bookshelf you laid out, Nathan?
No, but in this regard, I don't want to reference stuff that's not mainstream. So, because it's a response that someone may actually go and tell him we did a response to your claims that you ended the live stream. In which case, I want to keep it concise. What Brian's trying to talk about is if you have a whiteboard and you run your hands over it, it is perfectly flat. However, if you get down to the microscopic level, there are undulations, imperfections, not flat. So to one extent, yeah, you're right. If you take into account the hills and valleys, no, Earth isn't flat. If you look at the oceans, no, they've got waves on them. It's not perfectly flat. You can have certain instances where you can have the sea like a mill pond, and it is flat. Water finds and maintains level. So if it's flat, it's flat. But with the exceptions of those, no, the guy's right. Earth isn't perfectly flat. But as an aspect, we reference those hills and valleys in terms of their height or depth with reference to 0. And that 0 is a flat baseline that you're referencing the heights or depths of the hills or valleys against. So as an overall topology, you can reference how high that mountain is when you say Earth isn't flat, because overall you've got a flat 0 line to reference it to. That's a flat Earth that you'll give in reference to how high the mountain is when you're saying it's not flat. Well, how high do you say the mountain is compared to what? The flat baseline it's referenced against.
But Nathan, you're falling into the trap because you're going in to give a geometric explanation for something that's not a geometric claim. Flat is a description. The way of describing my table is flat. I can run my hand across it and it feels smooth. But when I put a microscope on it, it's not going to be smooth. It's going to have undulations. Flat is a description. You don't need to go in to tell them about how elevations are from sea level to sea level. It means sea level is flat. You don't need to do all that because what means sea level is horizontal. That's what it is. The horizontal baseline we take elevations from. Horizontal is a geometric plane, but flat is not. But horizontal is flat.
Sure, but I'm dumbing this. You're right at a more advanced level, but I'm trying to dumb this down to the point of somebody who's never been exposed to this and just goes, "I know it's a sphere. I've been taught it at school. You're dumb. You're a flat earther." That's the level we're dealing with.
Yeah, because if they apply their own standards, then they can't say it's a sphere because it's got undulations in it. That's not a sphere.
Yeah, okay, I can give that as a reference. Okay, no, I can give it as a comparison. So Neil deGrasse Tyson would hold up a ball metaphorically and say, if you ran your hands over the surface of this bowling ball, metaphorically, it would be perfectly smooth. but at the microscopic level, it would be comparable to the hills and valleys that we have on planet Earth, when he's assuming Earth's a spherical surface, but overall the topology is a perfectly smooth sphere. He then goes on to describe at a much more grand scale, but still almost insignificant compared to the ball he's actually holding when he makes the example, metaphorically. He says that it's chubbier at the bottom. Now, lots of people take that out of context to mean that he literally means it's physically bigger, which he is saying, and he does mean, but he's also contextualizing it by saying it's comparable to the bowling ball being slightly chubbier at the bottom. If you hold it, it's still, as far as you're concerned, perfectly spherical and perfectly smooth, but when you zoom in like you would on a comparatively scaled globe Earth, you have hills and mountains and valleys and rivers, and they would be comparable to the cracks and undulations at a microscopic level on a bowling ball. So he's saying smooth is comparable at the scale of a bowling ball compared to Earth. Earth, if you ran your hands over it, if you were the size of a giant and Earth was the size of a bowling ball, you wouldn't feel any of the mountains or valleys. It would feel perfectly smooth to you, is what he's saying. Now, if you then roll that out flat, comparatively, when Brian says, no, flat's just a description as opposed to a geometric aspect. Yeah, we can get advanced with this guy, but we'll lose him immediately. But when you're describing that, there's no justification to explain how flat something is when you're describing it as such. But when you talk about hills and mountains, you're into geometric reference points. That's flat. Your Earth is flat when you're telling us how high things are.
Sorry,
I always
couldn't you just
find this to be a
say that it's a straw man argument anyway?
It is, but as a normie, sometimes they accidentally stumble across fairly debatable and pertinent points in regards to how things are described. And Brian's absolutely spot on. That's why I've not told him he's wrong. I've said, no, I'm trying to dumb it down. Brian's absolutely right. Is it a straw man? It is a straw man if you're trying to make the conclusion which he didn't. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. He implied it, and we're pulling it apart on that basis of its straw man nature. So yes, you're right.
But look how they run real quick to that, right? So the first thing they'll say, oh, it's not flat because there's hills and mountains and stuff. It's like, okay, shouldn't you be saying it's not flat because there's all this curvature and stuff instead of the hills and mountains that you're talking about? Where's the curvature?
Well, in the sky. So his next claim, I've seen the moon, it's a sphere. Again, no formalization of the fallacy. But yes, you can then pull it apart based on its fallacious nature, but we're just going to pull it apart based on its normie claim. As in, I understand that because I look up at the spherical nature of the moon, Earth is a sphere. That's the claim. Although he hasn't directly said that, the actual quote is, I've seen the moon, it's a sphere.
But if you carry that fallacious logic on to its natural conclusion, you can't say it's a sphere either. That's what I was trying to point out, is if you're going to say that the Earth's not flat because it has hills and valleys, you can't say it's a sphere now because it has hills and valleys.
What has hills and valleys?
I said that same thing a while back.
Yeah, you're saying that you can't then say, okay, well, Earth's a sphere. Well, no, you can't say it's a sphere because it's blah, 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 blah. And they go, yeah, okay, well, it's no bloke spheroid with undulations. All right, well, what's wrong with it being a flat plane with undulations? Because it's saying it's flat. We're talking about Dumbos here.
Well, I just like to back up Chocolate because I was going to jump in there, but Chocolate beat me to it, that this would be progress because normally at one time, a normie, sorry for the comparison, linguistic comparison, but normally a normie person would say, we know there's curvature, we know this, we know that. But this lad's first response was, we have hills. That means there's not the same confidence amongst the everyday people, maybe in the world, that the Earth is a globe. If you know what I mean, because his first response, exactly, Chocolate, was not, we have curvature. That wasn't his first response.
Exactly. That's what you would think would be the first thing they would point out. Like, oh, no, it's not flat. It's curved. Thank you. But no, they don't do that. They point at things that you can point at, like hills and mountains. Yeah, it's not flat because we got hills and mountains. Yeah, okay, thanks. Later on, love for you to tell me how you measured those hills and mountains. Against what did you make that reference to again? Love to know. What's up, son?
Hey, how you doing? When it's a thought experiment and it only exists in the maths and you can't see it and it's below sea surface, geometric horizon marked with an X that no one's ever seen, what can they say?
That was like a
Worse
four-piece
than that.
combo right there.
You want to hear a
It's
bit of
worse
it?
than that because, sorry.
I was just going to say, would you like to hear a little bit of it so you can actually, get a gauge of how the tone is? Because then sometimes your venom is a bit dissolved when you hear the actual tone of the person that's making the claims. Anyway,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thing moves away from each other.
Wow,
We
that's
don't know
loud.
why, and we don't know what. And that's all left to somebody who's smarter than me to explain, right? But here on Earth, the way everything works is everything's pulled towards the center of mass. This is why it works. This is how it works, right? This is how gravity works. If I move towards another, cosmic object that is more massive than the Earth, or begins to gain more attraction to me than the Earth does, I will be pulled towards its center of mass. This is the way gravity works, right?
Okay, so I might as well. This is the point that about where I came in, and I start pointing out how wrong he is in the chat. So in the chat, I point out that he's 108 years out of date in this regard. I won't read out my comments from the chat, but that's what I was
It's
talking
not
about.
a theory.
He's a
God.
normie.
I swear to God. You just make the shit like people believe that there was a dude 2,000 years ago who could raise the dead, turn water into wine, walk on water, make the loaves into fishes and all this shit, right? Yeah? But yet they don't believe that gravity exists. Like,
We don't believe that gravity exists. Okay, so as I told,
To believe.
go ahead.
I'm just saying it's a believe disbelieve situation, is it? Not a proof of existence situation. With gravity. You know what I mean? We don't believe. So it's a believe disbelieve. It's not a proof, no proof situation. It's not scientifically proven or not scientifically proven. It's a believe disbelieve. Which one is it? Because he's literally giving himself away there with his own words. He's telling you that he has this belief that he has no evidence for.
Sure. Well, he's giving away his general high school understanding of mass attracting mass, right? Because that's what he's going to be. He's going to be taught that as a normally, high school graduate. So we can forgive him for the misapprehensions that he has been taught of this force of gravity that's pulling all the things to the center of the sphere Earth, he assumes, right? So we can forgive him for thinking that and just correct him and say, no, the modern gravity is the bending of a fourth dimensional space-time developed by Einstein in a geometry known as pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's length, breadth, depth, and time. The time being bent, time not being something that you can physically experience, it's a concept, but that time that's a dimension that you won't ever experience, being bent as a result of the uneven distribution of mass causing the bending of space-time. That's gravity in the current context. It's not some force pulling things to the center of Earth. Not for 108 years. That was Newtonian gravity that you were taught at a basic high school level so that you think things are all going down, go boom, boom because of gravity. They're not. Some things go up. Not all things are falling to the ground at 9.8 meters per second. Gas expands in all direction. That's why I told him from the chat to look up the second law of thermodynamics. That's entropy law. Not all things go down. That's weight. Yeah, hijacking weight and calling it gravity, that's all you're experiencing because that's your high school education and what it's told you, which is fair enough. You've just been deceived. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Funny enough, look what he compares that to. What does he say? Oh, people believe that 2,000 years ago, a guy walked on water and turned water to wine and all this other stuff, but they don't believe in gravity. Oh, really? We flipped that on him. People tell us that 2,000 years ago, some guy took some sticks in the ground, measured some angles off shadow, and supposedly came up with radius. That's funny that people believe that, huh?
Well, you can just ask this guy as a normie to justify his own belief. It's like, okay, you're telling us that comparative to Jesus, we should believe in bending space-time. Okay, no worries. I'll believe it. Show me time, and then show me you bending it as a dimension. If you can show me the concept of the fourth dimension in physical terms, because that's what's going to be bent in pseudo-Riemannian force-space geometry made by Einstein, not 108 years out of date mass attracting mass, as you assert, with your high school education of gravity, that's wrong, and out of date by 108 years. So you need to show us time, then show it bending, then we'll believe as you believe in the wrong thing that's 108 years out of date, just so you know. Are we all clear? Shouting out Godzilla 37 sitting on a spinning wet ball rocket that came like all things from nothing, then laughing at what others believe. Projection much? Well, yeah, ignorance often makes people project. Yes. Thank you for the super chat.
The irony of it using liberty, using religion
Does he
as a talking point.
Hold on, 10th. Go ahead, ball game.
I said just the irony of his argument using religion to make his point. His belief is a religion.
Irony, right? The irony is rich in that one, yes.
Yeah, the globe Earth is a religion. It's been derived from the Roman Catholic Church's need to know when Easter is in terms of the orbital motions that we'll get onto in a minute. Anyway, did you want to hear the other questions?
Yeah. Well, can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead, 10th. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. So does he believe that Henry VIII existed? Does he believe that George Washington existed? Does he believe that people in history, where we have evidence by eyewitness testimony of their existence, does he believe that, or does he know that?
Different standard. Historical standards are different, but yeah.
Okay.
I see your point.
So the eyewitnesses said they saw Jesus walk on water. So now we have to take that standard and check out the credibility of the eyewitnesses and all the other miracles that Jesus did. All we're asking for from this guy right now, right in front of us, show us curvature, and this show will end. They can't show us curvature for this show to end.
Well, no, that's not true. Perfect segue to this next question that I asked him, which is, or next claim he made, I should say. I've seen the curve from an aeroplane. Let's not just. There's only.
Hang on, I would question that right away, because he'd have to test it. Yeah, because I've been on an airplane higher than 40,000 feet, and I've never seen the curve from any airplane. I've flown a lot, and so have you. You would go to the back of the plane, look through a bigger window, try to see it, and you say, "Oh, I'm not high enough." So now it's your testimony against his testimony.
Well, it wouldn't be no, because I would establish what Earth curve was first. So as far as he is concerned, the Earth curve is represented by what he sees in the form of a bending horizon. So as far as he is concerned, the horizon, the thing that's been used for the namesake, for the defining feature of horizontal, he thinks the horizon bends at altitude. Okay, that's what his claim is. Now, the horizon does not bend at altitude, even if you're a globe-believing muppet. There are plenty of examples, again, using Neil deGrasse Tyson as my citation against this claim that globe believers should or could assert that they see Earth curve from an aeroplane. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can't see Earth curve from the ISS, merely fisheye lenses. The mathematics would be akin to a fly or ant 3 millimeters above a beach ball. Well, the ant in his example wouldn't see the curve of the Earth from 3 millimeters above the beach ball. That's referencing the ISS. That stuff is flat. End quote. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Go on,
just so he understands, that would be about 120,000 feet that he's talking about.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is, yes. Neil deGrasse Tyson's not talking about 30, 40,000 feet in an airliner. He's talking about 128,000 feet in something much higher, not seeing Earth curve, because it's not feasible to see Earth curve from an airliner. But Earth curve, no, I'm nearly there. Earth curve isn't the horizon. We've debunked that. The horizon is what you think is a physical edge for boats to fall over. The edge of Earth that boats are falling over and it's blocking your view of the bottom of them. Or buildings are obscured by the edge that they're behind. Yeah? So blocked by a hill getting in the way at the horizon is his claim. We've debunked the horizon as Earth curve. We only have one horizon. And the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve mathematics, that's your geometry for your Earth curve hill getting in the way, is at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet in your maths. And we've debunked that. Black swan. The geometric horizon is not Earth curve. It's not a hill getting in the way of anything. It's not there for boats to fall over because you reify the horizon into Earth curve and then claim that it's bending from 40,000 feet. That's absurd, incorrect, and not a claim that a globe would make. Further to that, the horizon's not Earth curve. We debunked it in 2020 as being a physical limitation to your view. It isn't. The horizon's not Earth curve.
Well, what I would say about all that is no. And why I would say no is a couple of reasons. Number one, He's only making the claim that he has seen or can see or would be able to see or call from an airplane. There's nothing to back that up. Nobody has ever seen something that doesn't exist from an airplane window. You can't see it because it doesn't exist. Our curve exists only in the maths, only in the maths. Because even their maths, right? And this is, I don't see that, all that stuff about Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'll get to that in a second. Even their maths is horizontal maths that they add R to. It's not, you can do all the maths horizontally without the R. All the distances to the horizon can be shown horizontally without the R. You can add the R in and that'll turn that horizontal distance into an arc length. Right? Neil deGrasse Tyson saying you won't ever see our curve is him saying you'll never see it because it's not there. That's what he's saying. Because we're told that boats are going over our curve 3 miles away from a 6-foot observer. So him saying you can't see our curve is a complete contradiction to his friend who, what's his name, the science guy fella from NASA, who tries to tell people and tell children and show people with a model how the boat goes over our curve 3 miles away. It doesn't. None of that happens. You won't see our curve, not because you can't go high enough, because it's not there to see. That's the reason.
Okay, but he thinks. Okay, stop. But he thinks the horizon is Earth curve. Therefore, he thinks he's seen the horizon. Therefore, he's seeing Earth curve. And when he's at height, he thinks he's seeing it bending. So, yeah, what Brian's saying is, in geometric terms, Earth curve exists below surface level in geometry. It's a tangent point below the surface level. That's horizontal, established with a horizon. So when you say the Earth curve is something you see when you look at the horizon, it isn't. In geometric terms, it's below surface level. It's a hill falling away from you 8 inches per mile squared, which is measurable, and what they claim is proving Earth curve when they say boats fall over it. That's the Earth curve edge at the horizon, that they also simultaneously imply mathematics that ignores perspective to assert that when a building or boat gets too small to see, or your angle is too limited against the deck, that's an Earth curve hill blocking your view of it, or a boat falling over an Earth curve edge. Now, those assertions require an understanding of the mathematics and the understanding for the necessity for that Earth curve to exist below surface level, and it be a second horizon in the maths, marked with an X, labelled horizon at the tangent point, the hill getting in the way, labelled horizon, below surface level. Now, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in that mathematics is not the horizon we see. The horizon we see, that limitation to your view, has nothing to do with an Earth curve below that surface level that's establishing horizontal. For all your references to how high or low the mountains are on the non-flat Earth, yeah, they're all referenced to sea level for a reason, because it's a flat plane that gives you the horizontal baseline, the surface level. And the Earth curve geometry for maths for a hill that's got boats falling over it is below that. Doesn't exist beyond the maths. The horizon's not Earth curve. It certainly isn't bending at 40,000 feet, but that claim is a z-axis claim. The claim that he's making is I can see curvature in the z-axis from my left of peripheral vision to right of peripheral vision. That's where he thinks he can see a curve. Now, that's not the curve that Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying should be visible. Neil deGrasse Tyson, to paraphrase, is saying you shouldn't see z-axis curvature in your peripheral vision, even at 125,000 feet. You wouldn't see it. That doesn't alter that the geometry of the obstruction of the things in the distance beyond the horizon is limited at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as per Earth curve geometry. Now, that's not Neil deGrasse Tyson's defeat of that argument. He's merely talking about the left to right z-axis not bending at altitude, in line with this guy's claim that the curve does become visible from an airliner, according to him. Well, he's wrong, even in the globe claim, but we've debunked the horizon as Earth curve either way. Doesn't matter if you can or can't see z-axis curve from left to right out your plane window, when the horizon is an Earth curve, because that geometric claim exists below surface level.
He's even adding on to that. He's even adding on to that the fact that the wide angle lens that supposedly Felix Baumgartner had is there to basically bend horizontal lines, right? So it's the same thing with the supposed curvature you think people are seeing from airplanes, because you got to remember, even if you think you're seeing curvature from an airplane, What are you looking through? You're looking through curved glass in any airplane, window, canopy, any of that. You're looking through curved glass. So yeah, you might get a hint of some curvature, but that doesn't mean that's the measured curvature of the Earth, because there is none. Like your man said, like it's the continuity error, right? You can't tell us that you can see curvature from 30, 40,000 feet where planes usually fly, while your priest, smoking the grass Tyson, tells us we can't see it from 120,000 feet. That's a continuity error in your story. So that makes you curious. And jeez.
Sorry, but I didn't know. You stop. Jeez, man. Come on.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
I'm done. I'm done. I just, if he happens to listen to this, I want, like, maybe if he's curious enough to go look into that. Ask yourself why you're saying that you can see air curvature from a plane, but then the same people that are like, their job is to run around and teach people about this stuff are telling everybody that you can't. Very simple. I'm done.
Well, all you'd have to do is go on, Neil. Sorry.
I think it's Neil.
So I'm just saying I got a couple of words on a curve. It's only take 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, One Deck.
Yeah. It's called the invisible dream. How do you measure an invisible curve? Because that's how they measured the Earth. The curve of the Earth that's never been seen, except CGI, if you know what I mean. The curve of the Earth has never been. The curve of the Earth not yet seen. The curve of the Earth, the invisible dream.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, somebody came in Ballbusters claiming they were on a vomit comet. And the guy said he was leaning more towards flat because he couldn't see any curves. But Nathan exposed him to be a liar anyway. So
well, actually,
it don't count.
Hold on, that's not strictly true. So after the fact, somebody, Quantum Eraser, found pictures that did have windows in. Now, they were being used in that instance to do specific, let's just call them observations, but they were at a level that was very different to the level of the Vomit Comet that's got 0G, tourist trips that doesn't have windows. So there are examples that do have windows in them.
Yeah, but just to talk about that, if you look at those photographs, those windows are small rectangular windows and they're at different elevations. So you don't have a line of windows to reference like you do with a normal airplane windows. You don't have this horizontal line of windows to reference. It's like small windows at different elevations. So it depends on how much you're floating up or down. Well, not really floating. How much you're controlled falling. You know what I mean? And how much you can see out those windows. As one window might show you an angle down the way, another window will show you an angle up the way, but you won't see horizontally out. And that's what I think is the point of them. So even though there's windows, they still mess up your frame of reference. That's the point. And that guy said afterwards that it was from the cockpit he saw that there was no curvature because his uncle flies or drives the plane. That's what he said.
In other words, what he's saying is when I called him out, he tried to get around it with some other bullshit story.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're off on a segue. I want to ask the rest of the questions. So there's only one left actually. So I've seen the curve from a plane. We've covered. I've seen the sun go behind a curve.
I have something to add to that.
Well, I'll just add it in so that the last question gets addressed regardless. So the last claim is the same as the last one anyway. I've seen the sun go behind a physical geometric limitation called Earth curve. He actually says I've seen the sun go behind the curve of the Earth. Same claim.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that apart. What he needs to do is go to Metabunk curve calculator. That's the one to go to. That's the correct one. And what you will see there is a thing called an effective radius, which gives you a refracted horizon. That is refracted in Metabunk to show it as a standard amount of 7/6 refraction. Now, the guy probably won't understand all this, but he will see when he goes there that is the whole point of the refracted horizon is what you will always see. You will never see the globe's geometric horizon. You will always see something over 6 or. It'll never be lower than 7/6R, and there is no limit to how much over 6R it can go, right? Because
Ryan, I got a question.
just 1 second, Chuck. Just let me just finish this.
Sorry.
Right. So what that guy has to realize is even within the globe Earth claims, the globe model claims, or claims concerning the globe model, there is no such thing as you seeing a physical geometric horizon. It won't be there and doesn't exist. You can never see it. Nobody has ever seen it. It's mathematical only. Now, the second thing, just before chocolate comes in, is the sun. When you see the sun at your horizon, you're not seeing the sun. This is official. You're seeing what's called the sun mirage in the morning and in the evening on the sea horizon. What you're seeing is the meeting of two optical phenomenon, not a physical sun going down behind a physical geometric horizon. Officially, they admit that that's not what you're seeing. Okay, go on, chocolate. Sorry.
Chocolate.
So my question to you was, when you were describing the metabunk, you said effective radius. What's the effective radius? Why wouldn't it just be the radius?
Well, the effective radius is the least amount of radius they have to claim that you will experience. You will never experience their 3,959 mile claimed geometric radius. You will only ever experience the closest to that you'll ever get is their 4,618.83 mile effective radius, and it goes up from there. Like technically, you'd never even see that. It goes up from there. So you're going. The radius gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the black swan example photograph, for instance, is I think it's 46.44 times the size of the circumference. If you duplicated the globe Earth circumference of 24,856 miles, it's something like 44 or 46.66 times the size of that circumference. So they have to duplicate the globe Earth over, like heading for 50 times to just explain you seeing an horizon behind an oil rig. And that's not even bringing curvature into it. That's just giving you a distance to the horizon, not a curved distance, just a distance.
Okie dokie. So I think we've covered all of that. Yeah, we debunked Earth curve. Space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. All of the trips and all of the claims for the sphere Earth are based in a sky vacuum, and we can debunk it with entropy law. The claim of globe Earth comes from a flat plane measurement of elevation angle measurements to give you all of the latitude lines on all of the different models. They're all derived from angles to stars off a flat plane. The flat plane is described in the elevations of all of the different topography, i.e. reference to sea level. Sea level itself implies that it's level. We build level. We navigate level. Earth is flat. The globe model has been derived from the Roman Catholic Church. It's just a religious belief. It's a model. It's not the way the world actually works or is measured or is built upon. That's flat. And the claim of Earth curve has come from the differential between two horizontal planes at eye level and surface level. And that differential, as you raise in altitude, can be back calculated to give you the geometry of a sphere Earth. Likewise, the claim matches nicely if you exclude perspective from a view when you have it in orthographic representation. That would be to say you look at the side of your own head, you look at the target you're looking at, and you look at the Earth curve as though it's a hill blocking your view for boats to fall over, all seen simultaneously, side on. That excludes all aspects of perspective. Therefore, when things get too small to see, they claim to go over Earth curve. Yeah, well, that's an orthographic representation that we debunked in about 2016. So all of this crap, all of the assertions, Earth curve's not the horizon, we don't exist in a vacuum, all of the trips to the moon are fake as they can come, not because we need to debunk whether the shadows are right in the stage that they filmed it on, but because the area that they had to have travel through was a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Gas fills vacuums. We breathe high-pressure gas. Therefore, we must be contained, and therefore there are no trips to the moon in Narnia, because the space vacuum is a complete lie. We must be contained to achieve gas pressure here. Gravity's not a force pulling gas go down, go boom boom. Your farts fill the availability of space. Next time you think of how your fart behaves, it ain't going down with gravity, is it? Yeah? I'm appealing to you at the level that you would expect to be appealed to, given that you're a genuine normie. So if you can understand how a fart behaves, you can understand that it ain't making puddles because of gravity. It expands to fill the volume, like all gases, and they would fill the low pressure of space instantaneously. That's how gas behaves. High pressure to low pressure, it's called entropy. Very simple concept that most people could understand if explained to them. Yeah? Your hot goes to cold. It's an irreversible effect. Your high pressure goes to low pressure. It's an irreversible effect. What's that? The sky vacuum you believe in? That's a very low pressure you're talking about. Yeah, the high pressure gas we're breathing would vacate into that immediately. We'd all be dead. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level in your sky vacuum-based heliocentric world of nonsense that's based on measurements taken from a flat plane that we actually live on. Do you want to listen to the rest of this? Might as well.
I got a comment.
An observable.
Go on.
Yeah. See, it's all programming, and we run into it all the time. Just watch sporting events, and they'll say, oh, gravity did the rest. Meaning what? Well, when the baseball was hit by the bat, then gravity finished it off. Or a golf ball, you know, when it goes into a hole, gravity does the rest. Okay. He brought up gravity. Okay. And he said that if he was near a larger mass, basically, then he would go compelled to go that direction. But because he's on Earth, he's going down towards the center. Okay. But what about a helium balloon? Why isn't the helium balloon going down to the center with you? I mean, it's so easy to break the programming with these questions.
Sometimes you got to treat that like the 90s. Don't say helium balloon.
Yeah. So exactly, Chopper. So we've got the helium balloon that just destroys what he just said. Then we got curvature, but you can't ever see it. But we got program for it. And then we've got Earth rotation, which no one experiences or sees. And we can prove with a drone going up that it's the luminaries that are moving, not the Earth. But yet the programming is so great, they're just like robots saying it over and over and over again until you ask them to think critically. And this is where cogdis comes in. And this is the problem.
Okay, right, let's hear a little bit more of we don't often get covering normies. And again, I don't want the commenters to go over and give him vitriol. You know, number one, I like the guy. Number two, I like his content. Number three, he's just a normie who's been goaded by a flat earth. So shout out to you, Shelley. I totally appreciate why you were doing what you were doing. If he's talking nonsense, it's almost obligatory. You've got to correct him. So, you know, I totally get it.
But
space is real.
Life. Yeah, or the fact space is real. When the sun goes down, you can look up and see space, right? What is the sky? A big fabric that somebody pokes holes in? Like what?
So he's got a vague idea.
People like to believe.
He's saying it's a fabric. The sun goes down, you can see black. That's space. So when the sun goes down, you can see vacuum. Right? So you're still breathing in and out, but you're looking at a black bit that's a vast vacuum. All right. Know much about how vacuums behave next to gas pressure? I'm pretty sure that in every instance of every vacuum you'll ever see ever, if you introduce a high pressure gas next to it, it'll just immediately fill the volume. And you think that when the sun goes down, you see a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum above your head. I see. How interesting. Is that because you're under the misapprehension that gas go down, go boom, boom with gravity? When it's not a force, it's a bending fourth dimensional fabric of time? Really? You think time, the fourth dimension, because you've got some notion of gravity being incorrect when you said it was a force earlier, is actually a fabric? I see. Maybe you could show us this time fabric. Can you do that so we can believe as you believe in gravity? Because we don't. We know it's just a fabric. A pseudo-geometry made up by Einstein. A pseudo-geometry with a made-up fourth dimension that he calls time. Now, I can experience length, breadth, and depth very easily. As for experiencing the dimension of time, definitely not. That's our description. How things progress derive from movements of the celestial items to give us a concept with numbers. That's not a dimension. But Einstein made it into one and then said mass bends it. That's what gravity is. So you can bend time with mass, okay? Show me. And then show me how that makes gas go down, go boom, boom, and form puddles. It doesn't. Yeah, gravity's nonsense.
Well,
go on, John.
If you reify the entropy into the arrow of time, and you take that literally, and then you aim that arrow down Can you come up with a formula of like 9.8 meters per second because you're using time twice to judge distance?
Yes, you can.
Or speed?
Yes, you can. Does that mean that gas go down, go boom, boom, 9.8 meters per second? This guy looks like he farts a lot in that room. I'm pretty certain that his farts don't go down, go boom, boom, 9.8 meters per second. They expand in all directions to fill the volume, just like every other gas does, because that's what gas does.
Well, if he was a proper...
Go on, John.
Yeah, John.
I was going to say, if he was a proper heliocentrist, he would have to be saying the Earth is rising up to overtake that fart at 9.8 meters per second.
The net effect being that gas go down, go boom, boom as the Earth goes up at 9.8 meters a second. In either event, you've got the gas pooling because the ground is coming up to meet it. In the Einsteinian version of gas go down, go boom, boom, ground going up 9.8 meters per second squared. Therefore, gas pooling at the bottom of the ground. We don't experience that. No matter which way you dice it, gas expands in all directions to fill whatever availability of volume it has in line with entropic law. That's what gas does. Oh, except if you've got a sky vacuum belief, then the night comes and suddenly there's a vacuum above your head with gas not filling it. Because, it doesn't apply to the model. That's the law of nature known as entropy. Doesn't apply to the globe religion model. Doesn't apply. Because gas would fill the space and we'd all be dead in that model. That's the sphere model that people think they're standing on when they've got a belief they were indoctrinated with that defies entropy law. Meanwhile, Earth's flat and space is fake.
How would we ever smell farts if gas went down?
Believe in magic, but then when it comes to real fact, they don't believe in it.
We would constantly
genuinely don't know what some people are out smoking.
So his example is to say people believe in magic.
Bigger the master, bigger the pull. True story.
But we're not believing in magic? No, magic is fourth dimensional space-time bending.
How to troll flat earthers. If Earth is flat, why are there hills and mountains? So true, man. So true.
What, hills and mountains that are measured with respect to the zero reference that's flat? Like sea level. Level, not curved. It's reference to that. Yeah, we covered that.
Look up.
It's not like he doesn't have to blame it.
Again, why not point to the curvature that you don't got? Why point to the hills and the mountains, things that we all see? This doesn't make sense.
A reference to level. Go on, John.
Exactly.
Was that a picture of his extended family over his right shoulder?
I can't really see it in this quality.
Wait, you're looking for his sister?
It's not only about that, man. It's observable. Like the fucking moon, a big thing floating in the sky is a fucking sphere, right? You can see it. It's there. It's a sphere.
Someone said you can actually bounce a laser off the reflector they left on them.
Okay.
He said it's there. It's a sphere.
Hold on. Who wants to potentially attack libration in this discussion? Because he's saying the moon is spherical, and there is an argument that can be made for it being spherical. Would you not agree? Unless you're unaware of libration.
Well, what I would say about it is the moon being spherical and being in the sky has no bearing on the shape or description of the Earth. What has that got to do with anything? The moon being a sphere and in the sky, or not being a sphere and not doing whatever, has nothing got to do with how we observe and experience Earth. And
no, wrong. Earth. No, Brian. If I'm in a forest and I look around and everything around me is a tree, I am a tree.
No, but that's because they put us in a heliocentric model, a solar system where everything is spheres. That's the indoctrination.
Right. Yeah. What he means when he says, I know the moon's spherical, is I assume Earth is spherical and the moon is in an orbital motion around us as a sphere. Therefore, I can infer that by simply looking at the moon and saying that is spherical, which some people would argue isn't the case, that means Earth's a sphere. That's what he's saying.
He's still got a big problem.
Here we go.
It can't be a sphere. It can't be a sphere if their previous claim or their other claim that light is directly reflected off the moon from the sun to us. Can't have that. You'd fail 60 level optics. If it's a sphere, you're going to get divergent rays.
Well, no. He immediately appealed to the retroreflectors that were left on the moon by the Apollo missions. So his next statement, you may not have caught it, was to say, well, haven't we got retroreflectors that were left on there? So he's appealing to a trip through the sky vacuum, through Narnia, through the second law of thermodynamics violation, where the rockets can go into that area 10 to the minus 17 tour to get to the moon, but the gas we're breathing doesn't. They wave goodbye at the Kármán line to gas that stops expanding into the space it has available. It just chills out of the Kármán line. They wave goodbye to it, and then they carry on to the moon, drop off the reflectors, based on the distances on the assumed R value, and Kepler assuming orbital motion, and Christian Huygens assuming that Venus has the same R value as Earth to give us the distances in their mathematics for the fuel that they're going to burn in the sky vacuum that isn't real. They've left retroreflectors and then got return signals, again, in line with the timings derived by Kepler's third law and Christian Huygens' assumptions of R being the same for Earth as it is for Venus. That's where they get the distances and the timings for the signals that they bounce off the moon and get a return. When they get 1 or 2 photons in the predicted amount of time that the R value would assert they'd get it in, they say, winner, winner, chicken dinner. We've confirmed with the retroreflectors that were left on that light in the sky based on a trip through Narnia. Okay, that's what he's saying. Retroreflectors.
Yeah, that still wouldn't debunk the divergent rays, number one. Number two, they already did that. They didn't leave retroreflectors. They bounced lasers off the moon in 1961. That's purportedly. So why would they need retroreflectors?
Okay, so what QE is saying is that prior to the moon landings, the same bullshit story with the same bullshit return value signal based on R, based on Huygens, based on Kepler, was doled out to the public prior to them having retroreflectors there, with the same mathematics. Now, after the moon landings, that story just had the landings incorporated into it so that the return signal with the bullshit values based on R could then be used to assert that obviously we're only getting this return signal because we've got retroreflectors there, ignoring all assumptions of R in the return signal and how weak or strong the actual photons that they say they're getting back in the time signal they expect are. It just proves that we've been there because we wouldn't get the signal at all if it wasn't for the reflectors. Not true, says QE. They were claiming to be doing this before they even got there in the journey through the sky vacuum that would leave us all dead because we'd have no air to breathe.
Yeah, it's worse than that, though, because what are they using as a timing factor?
I just covered that.
The light claim.
I just covered that. Speed of light, R, Kepler, Huygens. I just covered all that. That includes the two-way speed of light.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say that. Well, just what debunks that is the horizon, because the horizon is not a constant. It's not geometric, which they would need it to be able to even begin to measure if the Earth had an R value and was a sphere.
What do you mean, man? They had their space sextant.
Okay. I'll just reiterate what Brian's trying to get across. He's saying all the process that I just went through with Huygens and Kepler and the assumptions of Earth having an R value and the assumptions of Venus having the same R value and then the derivative Kepler's third law mathematics to give you the scales, all of that isn't withstanding the fact that they have to measure R in the first place, which requires a geometric horizon to measure it at. So your dip angle to the horizon in their mathematics is the geometry of Al-Biruni to give them R in the first place. Brian's saying, before we get to any of those assumptions, you're going to need an R measurement because, you know, Venus is going to be assumed to be utilising that R. Kepler's got your orbital rates using that R. Einstein's giving you the speed of light based on R. Everything's based on R. And you can't measure it at your geometric horizon you thought was bending at altitude in the case of this dude we're covering now. You can't measure R because you don't have a geometric horizon to measure. We've only got one horizon, and the begging the question geometric horizon was debunked in 2020. It's not a physical location to measure to get the R value, to make all of these assumptions about orbital motions and Venus and so on. Right, Brian? Where's your R value? You haven't got one. We debunked it. You haven't got a geometric horizon to measure it at.
Even if the horizon fell in line with those mathematical assertions, it would still be below surface level in the math. So, therefore, void.
Correct. That is to say, the horizon you think you're looking at when you see an Earth curve that you're going to claim you can measure or bend when it doesn't bend in the z-axis, well, that's below surface level. The claim of it in the geometry has come from the differential between the surface level and eye level when you raise in altitude. That's all you've got in terms of the mathematical derivation to give you Earth curve. The difference between two flat planes. So then you can put it in maths that shows it below surface level at a tangent point. Well, we don't exist below surface level. It's nonsense. Earth curve isn't real. It only exists in the maths. Oh, in the head of globe believers as well.
And
Can
it
you?
both would be below
Oh,
surface level.
I don't know whether you can do that. I don't know whether there's any lasers that. Maybe you need a really powerful laser. Man, you sound like you are far away, like really far away, like in another country or different side of the cube. Even it's true, so true, man. It's really, it's a problem, right? Check out at NAF Flagrant Paul newest episode on pyramids. Some valid points.
Is this where he's trying to interject that we're claiming shape into the argument by giving
I just don't.
cues
You know, I don't like things that you can actually observe with your own eye. I've been on a plane. I've looked out. I've seen the Earth curve. Have you, Daz? No, I didn't make that up. I've actually been inside of a plane and seen the Earth curve. I've watched it for myself. It's fantastic.
No, you haven't.
Poor guy.
So getting z-axis curvature. No, you haven't seen it. You can't see it. It doesn't exist in the z-axis at any altitude that is permissible to you as a general normie. It's even conceded by Neil deGrasse Tyson that at 125,000 feet, that stuff is flat. Your fantasy of seeing z-axis curvature when the horizon is horizontal is nonsense. Meanwhile, we've debunked the assertion that you can see it because it's at 1.2 times the square root of the observer sine in feet in your geometry. Not that you'd know that because you're a normie.
Well, that's the debunking of x-axis curvature, right?
Yeah, x-axis curvature is asserted at 1.2 times the square root of the observer sine in feet. This numpty saying you can see z-axis curvature at 40,000 feet. Just a numpty. Because he has been on a plane. That's actually true. He has been. Wowee. True, because he went on a plane. That's his standard. I've actually been on it. Wow, so have I. Yeah, when I understood better than he that you can't see that curve that you were trying to look for or claiming that you could actually see, you know, I knew you couldn't and wanted to go higher to see it. And then later was dashed in Neil deGrasse Tyson's estimation because even if I got to the ISS, I still wouldn't see Earth curve in that axis.
It's pretty interesting. I had the same situation happen with a lady I was talking to. She was going to fly back to Hawaii. And she said, yeah, I saw it on the way here. I said, so you're telling me you were on a plane here from Hawaii and you saw Earth curve from your airplane? She goes, yeah. And I go, interesting, because the people who fight for your side say you can't even see it from the ISS. So maybe you should, on your return flight, stop looking through the curvature window and think you're seeing curvature.
I was just going to say, maybe you should ask her, well, before the plane took off, when you were looking through those windows, did the runway look curved? Did anything on the ground look curved from the ground? So then you might have a slight problem.
Yeah, meanwhile, people's perception of curve through a window or otherwise doesn't change the fact that it's got actual geometry, actual mathematics where it's claimed to be measurable, and we've debunked all of it. So it doesn't matter what this guy perceives to be Earth curve at 40,000 feet as he looks left to right through his window and goes, oh, look, it's curving. Yeah, Dumbo. Okay, whatever. You don't appreciate that you're not supposed to see it at any altitude if you're a globe believer, but you can measure it in a different axis, blocking things in the distance as boats fall over the edge of your Earth. That's what you actually claim in your mathematics. You just don't know because you're a normie. So you think you could see it from 40,000 feet. No one's going to correct you because they'll nod along the other numpties that think they're on a globe when you say stupid stuff like this. No one will correct you. Oh, yeah, of course you can.
Well, my response to him would be that if he would care to give me the flight, he doesn't have to give me his exact flight, but the same flight that happens on a regular basis, where it goes to, how long it takes to get there. I get the average speed, and I give him the amount of degrees that pilot would have had to account for while flying over this Earth curve he says he's seeing at the window. And I'll also take the direction into account and see how much rotation the pilot would have had to account for. And then I will show to him how none of that was accounted for. How the pilot flew over a horizontal plane because the lift effect, right, requires the plane's chord line of the wings and the nose to be above horizontal for the plane to fly horizontal. It can't fly, right, with 100% positive lift with the nose and especially the chord line of the wings below horizontal. That's called a descent, officially.
fantastic.
Right.
Clean.
Watch the
You're
sun
trying-
rise up over the the horizon line, which is not a line. It should be called horizon curve.
The horizon,
What did
as
he
in,
say?
he said it should be called the horizon curve. So what, you mean like the etymology of the word horizontal, like horizon? That shouldn't be a geometric principle at all. It should be horizon curve. Okay, dum-dum. Even though you've got your high priests telling us how we won't see z-axis curvature from any altitude ever, you say we should relabel horizontal from the horizon as curved? Wow, that's asinine. Wow, that makes you look really stupid. Wow, did you think you were smart when you were saying that? Did you realise a flat earther like me would come along and say, horizon, as in what, horizontal? That's curving, is it? According to you? Yeah, stick to games. You're a gamer, right? Talk about graphics cards. Yeah? Talk about the numbers of clock frequencies. Don't talk about horizontal being bent. Because you'll have a flat earther ripping you a new asshole on his live stream with just as many people watching as you have. And making you look stupid. Like properly thick. You think the derivation of the horizontal principle, that's the horizon, should be referred to as bending? Wow. Aren't you thick? Love your show. Love your work. Really appreciate your work on graphics cards. Just stay out of my subject matter when some numpty comes along that tells you, yeah, of course it's a sphere. Because someone in your chat's pointed out that, no, you can't go to space. They're just dumping all the rockets in the ocean. If they were travelling out to the sky vacuum, so would all the gas we're breathing. But what's that? We should think horizontal bends? No, numpty. Yeah, horizontal's horizontal. The horizon's horizontal. That's what it is. Not bending because you thought you could see it out your bent plane window at 40,000 feet. I'm afraid not.
The geometric horizon still exists in the math, though.
Not bending in the z-axis, it don't. Ever. You'll never see it, ever, in any geometric mathematics that assert Earth's a sphere. What he thinks he can see is never calculable, ever.
Arwen's statement's incomplete as well. The geometric horizon only exists in the math below surface level.
Correct.
Shout
Yeah,
out
but that
to
would
Paper
require
Towel Earth.
further interest as to the reality of it, right?
Well, the reality is we've
They,
got
they
surface
just
level.
got their math, so they don't need to know those details.
Well, the details include surface level. John's right. When you make the complete statement, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths below surface level. And you say, well, that's incomplete, or we need to know more information about what the surface level is. Well, it's level. It's the surface. What do you want? It's all reference to that in terms of the height of the mountains and the valleys.
Yeah, and it's parallel to eye level.
Parallel with the horizon. Exactly. Don't rumpus him. He's got all the hottest
It's
points.
all bent in space-time.
No, Benton is horizontal, according to this guy.
You don't know if it's not bent in space-time.
What, horizontal?
You can't get
What,
there.
horizontal, like the horizon? Horizontal. I'm pretty sure I know what that means.
I've watched that happen. Yeah, with my own two fucking eyes. I believe what I see, what's observable with my own two eyes. Yeah.
All right, you believed wrong, didn't you? You were led astray because you think horizontal bends.
And that's the reality.
What kind of shrooms were on that airplane flight that were served? I watched that happen.
Yeah, someone
Get me those flight
if he,
details.
hang on, let me finish. If he watched it happen, that should be a repeatable instance consistently by everybody else who has two eyes.
This is where Earth curve exists in geometric Muppet vision, where you see the side of your own head. Yeah, this when you look up what Earth curve actually is, it ain't bending horizons, your plane window. This is Earth curve in the geometric assertion in Muppet vision. You see the side of your own head, you see a curved edge that's not the horizon, and a single point that blocks your view, marked with an X labelled horizon in the geometric Earth curve maths. When you see the side of your own head and the target simultaneously. Yeah, not a perspective view like you get out your eyeballs. Maybe I should put it in language that this guy can understand. We don't see the side of our head with our fucking eyeballs. But that's where Earth curve exists, mate, like this. Yeah, when you see the side of your own head. Now, if you'd have looked at what Earth curve was, you'd know that. You don't. You think you see it out of your plane window bending on the z-axis because you're a numpty who hasn't got a vague idea about what he's even asserting when you challenge people in your chat who know more than you do, in this case, Shelley, You point out you can't take rockets to space. There isn't such a place. They just dump them in the ocean. Nothing else they can do with them. They dump them in the Bermuda Triangle and tell you to be scared of it.
I've watched things appear over the horizon line. I've watched that happen.
Over the horizon line? All right. What, a dissolution point where things become too small to see? You've seen things appear over that, what, with an assumption that they came into view above a theoretical geometric sphere age horizon in Muppet Vision Earth curve maths? No, my friend. No, there's this thing called perspective, right? Now, it doesn't have any considerations in Earth curve mathematics, but I'm going to break it down for you in nice and simple terms for not an Apple fan. Imagine we've got two cows. Now, one is a toy cow that's quite close to us, and the other cow is 5 miles away. Now, let me guess, is the cow 5 miles away that's big, visible, or is it too small to see? Oh, that's right, the cow that's far away is too small to see. Now, is that because it's gone over an edge? Oh, right, now in this maths, this is the cow. Unless, of course, we can see it, then we'll bring it back with refraction. But let's just pretend that this is a cow, and this is you with the vision of your own head, and this is Earth curve, right? So the cow 5 miles away has just gone behind Earth curve, right? No, the cow has got too small to see. But in Earth curve maths, the cow will be given to you in a feet and inches value that doesn't change with distance. So by scale, I can put a cow on an Earth curve edge, obscured by a hill it's fell over, with you in Muppet vision, and say that this cow has got the bottom of its feet blocked by Earth curve. And it doesn't matter that by scale, this is about 7,000 miles away from the dude you can see the side of his own head. Doesn't matter by scale, because it's always going to be a 5-foot cow and a 6-foot man at any distance. That's how Earth curve maths works. It makes people like this exclude the fact that things get smaller into the distance when they say they've seen things come over the hill that is blocking their view. Nah, as you get closer to things, they get bigger. They disappear at the horizon. It's called the vanishing point. But what you think it's only because a geometric hill gets in the way? You think boats only fall over the edge when they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller? No, my friend, that's stupid numpty vision.
Hashtag shit shrinks.
Yeah, hashtag shit shrinks. This cow is small. That cow is far away. It's not Earth curve. It's just got too small. It's called perspective. It's completely ignored in your Muppet Vision Earth curve maths, where you think you're on a sphere, because the Roman Catholic Church decided that.
Yeah, we're finished, boys. That's it. Go
to space. You're finished because you've got a fundamentalist religious belief. You appealed at the beginning of this little stint to people who believed in Jesus raising men from the dead and turning water into wine. In other words, you appealed to a religious faith that people hold, that you wanted to pour scorn on. Meanwhile, the Roman Catholic Church gave you orbital motion, a sphere Earth derived from elevation angle measurements taken off a flat plane, and Venus being the same size as Earth. All of those things have come directly from the Roman Catholic Church to give you an estimation of when Easter will be in your little globe religion. Isn't it shocking that your notions of Earth having the moon, a sphere, fall around it, and Earth being a sphere falling around the sun is directly as a result of the church needing to know when Easter is? That shock you? Because that's the only reason you think you're standing on a sphere, because the Roman Catholic Church have told you to believe it. You religious fundamentalist zealot who's bought what the church told you. Facts, my friend, facts. Yeah, one more thing. Gravity's not a force and hasn't been for 108 years, while you doggedly tell your audience that you know in this belief you have that's out of date by 108 years, when it's actually the bending of a fabric of time that we don't experience in any physical means. It's in a pseudo-geometry labelled pseudo-Riemannian force space-time by Einstein. Just invented it. It's what gravity is currently, my friend. It doesn't force gas to go down, go boom boom, to let you have your sky vacuum to travel to your sphere-shaped moon, to give you your retroreflectors. Meanwhile, Earth's sphere edges don't block the sun or boats. And you haven't seen Earth curve from a plane. I'm pretty sure I covered everything you covered at the end of your fallacious little exercise of claim making when you don't have the slightest clue about any of this subject. You do know a lot about graphics cards. I trust you when you say that the 4070 Ti is a load of old garbage and it hasn't got a high enough bus bandwidth. Yeah, 192, I agree, it's garbage. They're ripping us off. And as for 8 gig on all the other cards, I totally agree, your disdain is justified. But when it comes to Earth curve and your religious belief, yeah, you're better off not covering any of these things again, because you'll have me, a flat earther, who's a fan of not an Apple fan, telling you how ludicrous your assertions are. I will do something that I don't typically do with most of the people I respond to. I normally say this with an air of sarcasm. But in this regard, if you are a computer fan and you want to know what's good value and where the computer industry are ripping off the general public with the parts that they sell, he is an authority on that. He's not the most subscribed to, but he does his research and knows his stuff. And I do take what he says with a pinch of salt also, but nevertheless, he's well researched. And I would suggest that you go and check him out and even subscribe to him if you're in the mildest bit interested in tech, because he's amusing, he's a good character, he's a good YouTuber, he deserves a lot more subscribers. So I'm hoping that you will, in all sincerity, go to his channel and say, actually, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me and said you're really good with tech and you know your stuff. But he also responded to you about your flat earth claims you made at the end of the last live stream. You might not enjoy the response you get. But I have subscribed, so hopefully you'll up his numbers. And like always, if he was to do a response or say, oh, thanks, I didn't realise the sky vacuum was a entropy violation, then obviously I'd hope he'd put a link in my video, even though he's probably about the same size as I am. Nevertheless, or is he? Is he bigger than me? Let's have a quick look. Can't quite see. 36k. He's a bit bigger than I am. Anyway, yeah, definitely put a link to my video if you do make a response then, as you've got more subs than I have. Not an Apple fan. Any other last comments on that? Because I think that's the last of his outro. Just ends his stream here.
Don't believe any theories that are made up in the internet.
Well, like gravity, not a theory. Definitely made up. Go on, sorry.
Well, I was going to say is people should go and just subscribe to him, and by subscribing to him, leave a comment and say you have subscribed. Doesn't matter. You can unsubscribe another time if you're not interested. But leave a comment to say you have subscribed, and the reason you subscribed is because of this show, because of you, Nathan, and you've responded to some of the things he has said at the end of his live stream there. Sorry. At the end of his live stream that were directed towards the natural earth and what it is and what it's not.
And also take into consideration that he's not covering this subject other than the fact that Shelley went in and started trolling him. Not even trolling him, just disagreeing with one of his assertions about rockets going into a sky vacuum. And I would have done the same, as much as it would probably peeve me that I have to cover something that I've not intended to come and talk about. When you're there, obviously watching, not an Apple fan, you're not there because you want to troll them about flat Earth. Quite the contrary for me personally. I'm there because I want to hear about graphics cards. That's it. So yeah, check him out. Let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll just see if there's any last words on this video, actually, Brian. There might be a couple more things. I think he just signs off, though.
Or anything a guy called David Icke says. Don't believe a word he says either, right? Yeah.
What?
Talk to you later, boys. Dad's gonna press his button. Stop streaming. Thanks, everyone, for the donos. You're all amazing. Love you. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dude, he's a mainstream numpty.
He's right about that. David Icke's a space.
Oh, yeah, sure he is. Yeah, yeah.
Hang on. No, hang on.
He's a mainstream numpty.
No, you're missing the.
I bet he believes in a certain event that happened in 2001 too. The mainstream story about that. I bet he believes in that.
Correct.
Yeah, but who cares?
Who cares?
You're missing the point.
So what?
Yeah, who cares? So what? You're missing the point. He just said, "Don't believe anything that David Icke says." Now, David Icke has nothing to do with this topic. He only broached it one time in a video, saying he doesn't know what the Earth is. So he's not connected to us, but he has made predictions that they come true. He predicted that certain people were doing bad things, certain celebrity people in Britain and people involved in government in Britain and the US, and it was proven that they were. So if the
You know-
state don't believe anything he has to say, that's a false statement because he has proven himself to be correct. He
You
still
know,
has
the
not with us,
interesting
though.
thing-
He's a
the
numpty.
interesting thing about that is the conspiratorial side, right? Where you take that and say the reason he could know that is there's this conspiracy and he's just guessing the moves of it. But if you follow the logic out, if there was this huge secret conspiracy that he's publicly speaking about, why haven't they killed him? And there's only two reasons. One, he's actually helping them by saying the idiotic shit that he does alongside the correct assertions he makes, which would make him at least complicit or complacent to it, or he's wrong.
Or three, they don't actually kill people that talk stories like that at all.
Or he's trying to lump David
Do you
Icke
know
with
any
us.
actual example, real world example of somebody that has blatantly gotten killed because he leaked something really dark about somebody else?
Yeah, there's this guy in John Wick, definitely caught a few bullets because of that. I'm almost certain of it. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to both Discord and G+ panels. Thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on after show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Exactly.
Let's say
That's
some
the
of the
point
people
of
that-
it.
Yeah. Like, let's say people like Bob Nodell, who will tell you something about how the earth is flat, and he'll show you something that proves it in some way, and then he'll go talking about electric gravity and talk
Yeah,
about
but nobody
scientific
cares.
proof.
Where the
What
others
about-
don't really care about that.
One at a time.
Right?
What
That's
about-
not
One
something
at a
to
time.
get killed over. It has nothing to do with anything.
May I, please?
What about Kennedy and Lincoln?
Okay, get out of this.
Still alive.
Get out of this paradigm for a minute and think of what he actually said. He actually said, "Don't believe everything you see on YouTube." He's on YouTube.
Oh, when you're causing
Okay.
echo.
Hello?
Arwen's listening,
Yeah,
but with
he's-
his mic open and he's causing echo.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know what you want me to do. All right, so he's meant. Let me start over. He's saying, "Don't believe everyone on YouTube," and then that's obviously includes him because he's on YouTube. So how do we know the information about the subject that he's an expert on is true? Well, we have to use critical thinking. We have to have reasoning skills. We have to question certain things and find a way to do some research to see if the guy's telling us the truth. Okay, that's obvious. But then he says, "Don't believe everything David Icke says." Okay, because you say I shouldn't. Okay, maybe the guy's crazy, but let me find out with my reasoning skills. The beauty of this show is that we ask the tough questions. Okay, is there such a thing as gravity? How do we test it? What is it? So we go to the inception of it. Who said it? What's going on? What would have to happen? Earth curve, same thing. What's happening, instead of saying, find ways to spot deception, it's all about the paradigm. Anyone who's on the flat earth side, to them, is stupid and trying to lie. And everyone on the other side from us isn't answering our questions. If they would just answer our questions and show us earth curve, we wouldn't have a show. So it's more about, follow the people I follow. Don't trust everything on YouTube. But whatever you do, don't do what FED does, which is ask good questions and get you to critically think and test things. We don't want to go there because then most of the things on YouTube won't be right. It's the wrong argument. You got to be able to discern. If you can't discern, then you'll be fooled by anything anywhere.
Well, the guy sounds like he's not really capable of discerning anything but his electronic specialty. That's what he sounds like. And it's like, oh, yeah, specialist. Oh, yeah, you know about the world with your specialist knowledge of your electronic. Yes. I'll take advice on who to listen to about worldly things. Yes.
But
No.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of being a normie, right? You don't have to. You don't have to put much work into it. You just regurgitate what you believe, and it's all gravy, right? Like if he were to go into what Nathan was like, the list of things that Nathan went into at the end of the live show, right? Where the gold model came from, right? Things like where did the Big Bang come from? If you research that, where did that come from, buddy? Oh, the Catholic Church, the same thing that you were making fun of earlier, religion, because that's what you appeal to. Said 2,000 years ago, people believed some guy walked on water. Okay, great. Those same people gave you the very model you're sitting here making fun of us for. So who's got the problem again?
Well, it's even more mano a mano. He says he's been on airplanes and saw Earth curve. Well, I've been on airplanes and I've never seen it. So now my senses, my eyes against his eyes. Your eyes, Chocolate. You work at an airport. You talk to pilots. You know what you're talking about when it comes to airport things, right? And so others who've been on airplanes can't see it, but he's seen it. Now, this is really important to me because here's another human being who I'm going to say is not lying to me on purpose, but he said he saw something. Well, I wanted to see the same thing, and I went with an open mind and looked, and I never saw it. So who's right in this? How do we discern if someone actually saw something or someone actually thought they saw something? Well, let's see. Your experts in your field say you can't see it from that altitude. In fact, you can't even see it from 180,000 feet. So your own experts I'm going to use as evidence against what you said. So these aren't.
And the ISS is where? 250 miles up, supposedly? Can't see it from there either, buddy.
Yeah, you can't see it from there. The whole point is that his own side, so he can't say, well, you flat earthers only say that. No, your own people say you can't see it, but you say you see it. So now I'm able to discern. So all I have to do is bring in that quotation or many like that and say, look, you gotta realize you never saw it, but you thought you saw it because you were programmed to see it. It's all in your mind, buddy. And here's how I discern what I'm saying is true. Your own experts say you can't see it. So people who want to see it can't even see it.
Well, if I take my example and I use, sorry, Chocolate, do you want to say something in response to that before I go?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay.
I was going to say something, but it's off topic. I was just bringing up something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me go with this first, John. If I use my example and I take Nathan's example from both our pasts, I was on airplanes and I flew the furthest I could fly from Ireland, which is to Sydney, Australia. It's the furthest distance you could fly from here. And I remember saying to myself back, well over 20 years ago now, I guess that Australia must be a very flat country because there was no Earth curve. I couldn't see it before that in the flight because it was all nighttime flying with clouds and stuff. And I was asleep for a lot of it, so I didn't really see much out the window as well because the direction we took would go over mountains and different things. So I couldn't see anything out the window. But as soon as I got to daylight, once I went from Hong Kong to Sydney, and once we're flying, especially when we're flying over Australia, it was like there's nothing to see. So I accepted that I couldn't see any Earth curve from the plane window. Now that was a commercial flight to Australia, so it was just flying as high as commercial flights fly. Nathan had the same problem. He wanted to go higher to see the Earth curve when he was on an airplane, on way more airplanes than I was ever on. And I was on a lot of them. And he was always disappointed that they couldn't go higher so he could see the Earth curve because he accepted it wasn't there. But people like this lad in the video will go onto a plane, look out the window, and regardless of what they see, they will tell themselves they saw Earth curve. And that's the difference. We accepted what we saw and didn't see before we were even involved in the topic. But some people look out the window and regardless of what they see, They only see this what they're programmed to. Their memory is what they're programmed to remember.
Well, they look inside their head as to what they're expecting to see, but then they don't connect it to what they actually see. That's what often happens. So they look at it, but they still don't see it because they're actually looking at the image in their mind, but not realizing that consciously.
Yeah, they're looking at a diagram in their own mind as opposed to what their eyes are actually looking at. And afterwards, their memory involves something that wasn't there. You know, it's like the whole thing of like 4 or 5 people looking at a car crash. They'll all tell you different things because their memory of it will be different.
Oh, you know what that actually is? And don't take this wrong, but that's actually the psychological Mandela effect at work. They're looking at something that they're expecting, and then they think that they've seen that, but that's not what they've seen. They looked in their mind, but they thought it was reality.
It could be out to that there. That might be a very big part of that. Very much so. Because you're going to see what you want to see. If you want to see it hard enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I wanted to see Curve when I was flying to Disney World when I was a kid. And I just got disappointed. Kept saying, it just looks flat to me. What the hell? And now, obviously, I'm a kid, so I don't know. I don't really understand that the plane is obviously not high enough, even in that paradigm, to see any curve. But I was mad. And I wanted to see it. It's not like I saw some pretend curve because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see curve. I didn't.
That's exactly how I felt. I wanted to see curve. I wanted to go higher. That's what I was thinking when I was looking out the back of those plane windows on all those rep trips. I really want to see it. I wish I could go higher so I could see it, because I knew damn well you couldn't. It looked so flat. But in my mind, I wasn't justifying it as being flat. I was going, wow, it looks so flat. I wish I could go higher to see the curve I can't see.
Yeah, that's my point. Me, Nathan, you, me, and Chocolate are all on the panel here, and so is everyone else that's on the panel here, have all looked out the airplane window and have all seen no curvature. And we've accepted you're not seeing any earth curvature from the airplane window. Now, some of us may have taken a few years to get to the point of accepting, of realizing, hey, the reason I wasn't seeing it is because it can't be seen because it doesn't exist. But we accepted it, even when we were believers in the globe Earth, we accepted that we couldn't see it from this curvature from an airplane window. But there's people out there like this lad in the video that does the computer videos, who is telling himself that he saw Earth curve when he didn't, and that's the difference.
I wonder.
Exactly.
When
I didn't see it either. I went up on a plane from Florida, and then I went to Texas. Texas is as flat as can be, no curve.
See, what I'm curious about is the transition, right? When it would go from. Now, I'm not saying this guy's making any arguments. He's obviously just a normie making fun of flat earthers. That's cool. Have at it. But I wonder when the transition would happen, when it would become, oh, yeah, bro, I see this from the plane, bro. To, oh, it's too big for you to see it because we're like the size of dust mites or smaller than dust mites. It's that transition that I'm always very curious about. When does it change from we can obviously see it to, oh, I mean, of course you can't see it, bro. You're too small. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's disconnected. It's a disconnected view on things. So it's like two different situations that you approach differently. But then as they unroll every time, you don't connect it to the other thing, even though you should.
Yeah, it's like the guy that came in before Matthew. The guy that came in before Matthew Learns, Rob, whatever his name was, who blatantly made that contradiction. And then when was pointed it out that he made the contradiction, actually said something hilarious. He was like, yeah, when you put it that way, it sounds like a contradiction. Like, bro, you just said that.
Yeah. That's
That
pure psychological compartmentalization. What's happening then?
No,
right?
that guy
They don't connect
blatantly
it up.
showed him. No, that guy blatantly showed himself as to be an anti-flat earther, because at the end, even when he was pointed out that he made that contradiction, and Nathan tried to get him to concede to it, he refused. Even saying that the contradiction, what you just said, sounds like a contradiction. Did you make that contradiction? No, I will not concede that I made it. So he exposed himself as an anti-flat earther. He came in with that, oh, I'm a nice guy, Mr. Oakley, blah, 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 all that crap. Yeah, nah, that was nonsense. He was already an anti-flat earther before he got here.
Well, he made
Sorry,
the concession that the differential was between eye level and sea level right off the jump. He said, I know that it's a differential between two planes. He said that.
Well, Chocolate, let me tell you this much. I can tell you for a fact, dude, that I seen the refracted horizon from that airplane window. And nobody's going to tell me any different.
Too deep, too complex a joke. I got it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, but Chocolate was talking about somebody come and say to him, you just can't see it because it's just too big. And I'm progressing on to, dude, I totally saw the refracted horizon. You tell me I didn't see it. Do you know what I mean? Refracted horizon. People not. Do you know what I mean?
I looked through surface level. I looked through surface level and seen the geometric and refracted horizon simultaneously with the horizon.
That's like seeing Batman and Bruce Wayne in the same room. What are you talking about?
John's taken it to even more absurd levels where he's saying he's seeing both refracted and geometric horizons below the surface level. So below the transparent surface level that's flat that everything's in reference to, he can see both geometric and refracted horizons at their tangent points below the surface level. He's taken it to that one level beyond extraordinarily stupid. Coincidentally, the actual globe assertion. Just saying.
And Chocolate, I got an answer for you. The transition between flat and curve. I don't know if you want to hear the answer.
Go ahead, I'm here.
SpaceX has it about 15 miles. That's where it transitions to curve. 15 to 20 miles.
We're talking about z-axis curvature.
Earth looking like a globus.
Gotcha. Yeah, z-axis curvature. So in other words, no matter how you dice it, if Earth is a sphere, which it isn't, and you raise in altitude, at some point you must achieve x-axis curvature. That is to say that the peripheries of your vision will bend, and eventually, if you go high enough, obviously you're looking back at Earth as a sphere. It's completely bent around itself, the horizon, that is. That's what the assertion would entail. The fact that it never, ever, ever happens, they just assert it's because you're not getting high enough to see the x-axis curve. But you're saying that, according to SpaceX, you'll see it at 15 miles.
Yep, 15 miles. And what's crazy is that the planetarian guy said, not even the ISS said that it's 225 miles or whatnot. Can't see it from there.
Yeah, yet in geometric terms, they claim that literally you could lie on the ground and be 1 foot above the ground and see it at 1.2 times the square root of your observer's height. So 1.2 miles would be where the curve of the Earth would start if you were lying down, looking at it about 1 foot above the ground. Right, so you can see it from 1 foot above the ground. Earth curve. What's that, 15 miles? Yeah, there's a bit of a disparity there, really, isn't there?
That's only on that special day. That's only on that special holiday we call No Atmo Day. That's
Hold
when
up.
you can see the curvature.
No, it doesn't have to do with Atmo. It has to do with having X-ray vision and seeing through surface level. So at 15 miles, you can see through the surface level, right?
But you can't from
Only in the
250
maths.
miles?
Yeah, the correct answer.
What?
The correct answer to John's question is only in the maths.
Yes, it is. That is to complete the statement.
The same maps that say you can't see the curvature from 250 miles. Okay, that's good.
No. That's you're misinterpreting. You're repeating their misinterpretations of their own mathematics. But
No,
the
I'm
actual
repeating their
problem is
contradictions.
Just hear him out.
Right.
Go on, John. Try once more.
Right. They're misinterpreting their own mathematics because whether it's a geometric horizon, refracted horizon, any horizon they want to create geometrically or refractive, whatever, they're always going to be below surface level. Always. Because the math is made from the differential between two flat planes.
Well, and Alberica, good looking out for that. But like, what I was kind of talking about was more so of the transition in the mind of the person who is trying to either defend or argue for this. You know what I mean? Like just like that guy from the other day. Like he came in with a claim of Earth curve is supposedly blocking part of Canada, right? And then by the end of the conversation, well, I mean, if you're smaller than a dust mite, therefore you can't see the Earth curve. So what I'm trying to say is, where does that transition happen in your mind as a globe defender? Now, him, like I say, he kind of exposed himself as an anti-flat earther, to me anyway, by his statement at the end, where he just refused to concede that he made the contradiction, even after saying that sounds like a contradiction. Way to go, buddy. But what I'm talking about is like a normie, like the guy we listen to today. Like, where would that transition be? It's just kind of me talking out loud or thinking out loud. But I think that's a funny thing because that's like a mental block, right?
You know what it is,
You gotta say there's Earth curve, but you can't see the Earth curve at the same time. Like that's craziness.
The indoctrination. They choose to believe the authorities, people in charge.
That sounds
With
painful.
some flat earthers.
Matthew Lerner came on and said that the shadow doesn't prove the Earth is a sphere or the radius at all. You have to assume that. But I choose to believe the authorities.
You called him Matthew Lerner?
Because it makes no sense.
Well, Matthew Withers.
To try to, it makes no sense to try to measure a radius without assuming it's a ball first. It makes no sense.
Let me correct myself. Matthew learns, but it's actually Matthew Withers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, they don't respect the authority of the mathematics they use either. You know, like, but it's shown in the diagrams, surface level. You know, they got the negative elevation. You know, John talks about you got to have drop, right? Negative elevation. Like even in the mathematics, they don't have that.
Yeah, which is why
hill in the lake.
Brian, didn't you say that Michael Kahn got GPT to admit that it was C was horizontal or something? I was reading something that you posted in that.
On Flatside stream on Saturday, I listened to it. Listened to some of it last night and today. He got ChatGPT to admit, because the ChatGPT was trying to claim that the surface of the Earth is curved, and that the celestial navigation don't use the surface of the Earth and different things like that. And he got ChatGPT to apologize and admit that when you take the dip correction into account, then the oceans have to be horizontal for the dip correction to be performed. And that it was sorry, I got things mixed up. It apologized to Michael. Because that's what it does. It's a bullshitter. That's all it is. Right? It tries to bullshit you with a load of heliocentric rubbish, sorry for language, and you correct it on it, and then it goes, oh, sorry about that, I actually was wrong. Yeah, because you're wrong. So it is a funding. You know, Nathan was correct in his very first estimation of it. It's just a total funding. But just on what John is saying, because that connects to it, Neil, is the dip correction, right? The dip correction needs the horizon to be in a horizontal with the water underneath the boat. Regardless of what way you want to describe it being done, it requires the ocean, the mean sea level, to be horizontal. It requires it to be horizontal. Otherwise, it can't be done. And that's why John's point of, all these things are happening below the surface level. You know, because what their distances, whether it be their geometric globe distances to their geometric globe horizon, or to any of their over 6R horizons, they're all horizontal distances that they add R to. But they calculate them horizontally and then add the R they need to add to it. So that puts them underneath surface level, because you can't perform dip correction if the horizon is lower in elevation than the water underneath your boat, because your corrections will always be out, and you will always, at the end of your 3 circles of equal altitude, you will always be way out from where you're trying to be. It can't be done. And even in site reduction tables, they pre-assume that your eyeball is at the water to do it, which means that whether your eyeball is at the water or your horizontal is making a total parallel, you can't have a horizontal making a parallel with a curved surface. even if you're using it above a sextant. It has to make a parallel with another horizontal. There's no a curved line and a straight line are not parallel. Parallel means an equal distance apart at all points along those lines. So what John's saying is he's been saying the phrases. Come on, John. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and if they try to curve eye level, it really, really screws them, because then that curved adjacent is going to be hard on them.
You guys ever think that a simple concept of the triangle would literally destroy the entire globe map?
Or reduce a university mathematician to his knees? Amazing.
That too, yeah.
A curved line can be straight as long as it curves in a straight way.
And be straight in a curved way?
Yes, sir. According to M. Scott Breach. Don't you have that at hand?
I think I've got that somewhere. I'd have to find it.
Okay. Me too.
Was that when he was trying to make the argument for like an intrinsic line on the outside of a ball as opposed to an extrinsic line?
That's way above the level of M. Scott Beach there.
Well, Rob Durham put out a video showing this CAD program. He pretty much put an end to that silliness.
Yeah, I showed Rob's CAD portion with the line, how you can't make an angle with the line through CAD. And I also showed it after him through GeoGebra, how GeoGebra will not reference a curved line when it comes to angles. It will have nothing to do with a curved line. You can put in the curved line, you can do everything you want. It will run a chord through the curved line or make a tangent. It will not use the curved line. So it won't. You can't do it. But look, when you hear statements like QE just said there from M. Scott Veach, it's like, is there any wonder why we don't address these people anymore? Only Flatside is the only person I know really, and maybe Rachie a bit, addressing these people. It's just like, if they're willing to say stupid stuff like that, that makes no sense. But if they're willing to say it, then what are you at trying to have any conversation with that person? What do you expect to come out of it? Sorry, Kiwi.
Yep. Nathan, it's in Master B or Master D, whatever.
An equator is a straight line in spherical geometry. That's true. Look up the definition.
No, straight lines do not curve.
In spherical geometry, a straight line is one that will curve. As long as it curves in a straight way. Along a sphere. That's correct.
That's it.
Wow.
Bro.
Man, all I hear is M. Scott Veach and Bev distorting like to all hell because they've got their gain. The ballers do this. They have their gain set so high so that they can talk over people. That's the only reason they do it. And they just clip to all hell. It's horrible.
Well, you ruined that. I heard that pretty good.
An equator is a straight line. In spherical geometry, that's true. Look up the definition.
Just horrible. Like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, but the line that he says makes up for all of that audio chaos. It makes up for it. Trust me.
In a straight way. It is so funny to listen to these guys, especially from the absence. It cracks me up.
As long as it curves in a straight way.
Give me a straight banana, please.
If you go back like 7-8 years, y'all were a bunch of science denying, mathematic or geometrically illiterate flirts.
Yeah,
that's just crazy how the tables have turned, isn't it?
Very much so. But right around that sort of time, as those tables were turning, everything got shut down. We all got censored.
Yeah.
That's the only way to appeal to them, as far as I can see. Directly respond to them and encourage our audiences to go and tell them that we've done so. And then what? They have to delete all those comments every time they come in because they don't want people to realise that we've responded to them? Well, you know, they can only do that so much. In the same way we could only bat it away so much when we had all of the soccer accounts, presumably 100 versions of Gem Panda, coming in telling you, yeah, it's still a sphere, ha! Baseless assertion fallacies in the comments that you had to deal with. I mean, I let them all stand. I didn't delete any of them. But I know many people would have deleted them because it's just irritating when someone just comes and doesn't address anything in your video. Brian, you'll speak to this because you leave them in too.
If you want to speak to it, Brian.
If you wanted to.
Sorry. I literally was just walking away from my phone as I was addressed. No, it's true. I leave in all the comments, all the bad comments, all the trolls. So anyone comes there, if they're new, like they might want to leave a comment, and all I get from someone who's new and who is interested would say, thanks for the video or something. And even they will get trolled. Because I want people to be able to see what it is we're dealing with. So when they come in and see all that negative, all that toxic behavior, all that lack of proof, all that misunderstanding. And even sometimes they'll see me addressing someone and going through something very calmly with the person and showing where they're wrong and them doubling down on it even though they're wrong. And tripling down and quadrupling down. And so, I mean, for me, it might seem like a waste of my time doing that, but it's not, because someone can come in and read that and go, one person here is level-headed and trying to be honest, but the other person is just doing their best to keep building a wall. So that's why I do it, and it's for that reason. Same as you, Nathan.
The dipshit Danny Faulkner chat skanked in my comment section under the last Ballbusters video. Brian's well aware of it.
So am I.
Yeah.
All he is.
Yeah, he tried to equivocate between with Pascal's principle between liquid and gas. He tried to use fluid or something like that. It's like Pascal's principle. Yeah.
Yeah, hydrostatic pressure. What I crushed him on 6 years ago. He can't get around it, and then he started making up some stuff that Brian deleted his comments. This guy, Answers in Genesis. I like I told him back 6 years ago. I said at the end of our little interlude, I said, Danny, I just got to tell you one thing. You're either a liar or you're incompetent. To the nth degree, and I don't know, folks. Go look at the comments under my video. You tell me.
Do you have that recorded? The 6 year ago one?
I'd love to hear that.
I don't have it recorded because it wasn't in audio; it was in text. But yes, I do.
Can you post that? That'd be great to read.
Ooh, that's a lot of posting. I'll tell you what. Remind me when I get back from Oklahoma, and I'll do it.
Okay, great.
Okay, yep. Remind me.
There's no excuse for this guy, Danny Faulkner. And he's 6 years now, too. I'll tell you. These guys, man, there's something else.
And, of course, you know he appealed to Christian astronauts to somehow try to debunk me. You know he did that. That's just one of the train wrecks. I whipped them around by his short hairs back then.
Was he talking about the ones that came to Times Square? Jared?
I don't know. He mentioned a couple astronauts that were Christians, and how could I even conceive of calling Christians liars? Something on to that effect.
Easy, because Christians lie.
That's easy because Christians lie.
Yeah, it's like all or nothing, right?
Why do you think Christians are told to repent? Oh, what are they repenting of if they don't lie?
But what do you do?
I'd have to go back and look at my response to that. That's very no problem, Brian. I'd have to go back and look at my response to that question. That's a very good one, Penn. I'll go back.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. But what did you guys do when he just came in chat? What is this Pascal's thing? Where's that?
He wasn't in chat. He was in comment section after the video. Of course, Danny watches all of them, right?
Oh, comment section. Got it.
He's in under the comments of the last Ballbusters. Yes.
I sent it to you. If you look.
Let me give a
to you.
I'll give a rundown of what happened. He came at well, us, and addressing me because of the presentation about objects weigh more in a vacuum, right? And how that debunks the whole heliocentric model. He came at me with Pascal's principle. Now, Pascal's principle is what hydraulics are based off of. It's based on the transference of pressure through a liquid, not through a gas. And what I did is, when I was writing it, I was writing the comment, making dinner, drinking alcohol, and watching one of the Terminator movies. So I wasn't paying enough attention, and I mixed up the word compressible and incompressible. I put them in the wrong order. Now, I got a like on that comment, and I reckon that like was from him, because he spotted that. But he hadn't commented back. He tried to claim he commented back to me, but the comment got deleted. But I got no notification, because even if the comment gets deleted, you still get a notification. So he commented the next day to say that he got a comment deleted, right? And I said, by me, and I said, I couldn't delete your comment, I said. And I was straight up about it. I said, yeah, I mixed up those two words, but I couldn't delete, and I went back and changed them. I couldn't delete your comment. It's not my channel. How can I do anything like that? And he tried to call me dishonest. And I said, well, you're just majoring on the minors as opposed to addressing your dishonest use of Pascal's principle. And he never came back, because he has not. He tried to treat people like they're, one second, Neil. He tried to treat us like we were stupid, or treat people like they're stupid, by bringing in Pascal's principle, as if we wouldn't understand what or know what that is. Because he thinks that he's smart. Because that's what he is. But one second here, just before you say it, the giveaway was, for him, the first thing I saw was after I replied to his comment on Saturday night. I looked down through the other comments, and he had commented a second time. And he tried to say, well, this could be just as big a problem for the flat Earth as it would be for the globe Earth. And it's like, and I asked him, well, how do you? And I asked him, and I replied to his comment saying, how did you come to that? Why would it be a problem for us? We don't need gravity, right? And I got no reply. But that told me that his original Pascal's principle comment, right? He knew that wasn't any good, and he wasn't confident about it, because if he was, he wouldn't be asking about this supposed problem that supposedly Pascal's principle supposedly solves. If Pascal's principle solves the problem, why you tell me there's a problem? Three comments down in a separate trade that you're making. So the fact that this guy was making a second trade where he was talking about it being a problem for both models, load of rubbish, right? The fact that he was trying to say it was a problem for both of them means that he was accepting it was a problem for his model. But several comments above, in a different trade, he tried to use Pascal's principle. So the guy is as far as I'm concerned, the guy is totally dishonest. That'd be my estimation of it.
Okay,
Sorry,
so what I was going to say, that he also commented underneath that and said, we have the same problem, which I thought was hilarious. But him calling you dishonest, that's projection. He's the only dishonest person in this conversation right now, because it's all been laid out for him in black and white. Huey did it 6 years ago, and he still wants to hang on to his heliocentric beliefs and his little book sales and his little gathering that he's got of followers. The liar.
What he was trying to do the next day, when he came in and said that he got a comment deleted, and he was going to attack me on, going to reference something, that a mistake I made in my comment. What he was hoping is that I would say, what mistake? Or try to hide the fact that I made a mistake. I won't. I'll own it straight away. Go, yeah, I made that mistake. And he had nothing then. Once I said, I put the compressible and incompressible in the wrong order. Yeah, I'm grand with that. Because what he wanted to do was try and avoid trying to say, oh, I didn't do that, or try to pretend I didn't do it, which would be totally stupid and dishonest. And then he could call me dishonest and say that I did mix him up, and he might have screenshotted the original comment or something. So I don't do that. I just own it. Go, yeah, I did that. Anyway, what's your problem? Why are you majoring on the minors? Why don't you address the point about how you're trying to use Pascal's principle dishonestly when you know? And so another commenter came in, and this other commenter corrected him on his Pascal's principle point. So that's what he was trying to do. It was totally dishonest what he was trying to do. So that's what you're dealing with him, a liar.
So can you please summary for the rest of us why he tried to confuse it between the principle being tested through gas versus water, and why he would do that to gain an edge?
Because what he was trying to say is that which was a debunk. Even what he was trying to say is a debunk of the gravity claim anyway. He's trying to say that all the downward pressure of air weight of air being pulled down towards the surface is creating an upward pressure underneath the object. Right? The gas is creating an upward pressure on the, it's like his downward creates upward. That's what he's trying to claim. Because when a helium balloon goes up, and this is one of the reasons I addressed it in the presentation, a helium balloon goes up in their model, it's only because the weight of the air is being pulled down, displacing it up. Not because it's just less dense. It's because it's being displaced up due to a bigger weight of air coming down. So the helium balloon doesn't weigh that weight downward vector as much as the air, so the helium balloon will go up, right, until it gets out of the air. This is what they wanted to believe. So he was trying to say that the weight of the air coming down creates an upward buoyancy. It's like, no, Danny, right? I already addressed this in the presentation. That's an up, not a down, right? That means you're not claiming down, you're not claiming weight. If you're claiming up, you're not claiming down. You know, so either it's coming down or it's not.
Wait, Brian.
Sorry?
Don't clouds debunk that nonsense anyway? Why do clouds?
The vacuum chamber is debunk it, Neil. If the air was coming down, because what he's saying, if you think about what he's saying here, that the downward weight of air is creating an upward buoyancy underneath the object, right? There we presuming there's an underneath that the air can go to, right? It's like, no, Danny, that means you're saying that the up is beating the down. So that is backwards for your model. You need the down to be beating any up. That's the point. That's the whole point of the weight of air. And that's what he was trying to, but his route of trying to do this involved Pascal's principle, which has absolutely nothing, there's nothing to do with gas. It's purely liquid, not gas. He was trying to equivocate between gas and liquid because they're both called a fluid. So he's a complete fraud. The guy's a complete fraud.
Hey, 10th Man, didn't you have a video specially made for a friend of yours? How did that turn out, that friend? Did he get that video? The one where I came and complained about Danny Faulkner?
Yeah, Nathan did that. It was what was the explanation? What was the topic that day? It was
you wanted your friend to get a whole thing we were recording.
No, I got that. I just can't remember what the topic was that I wanted that for right now.
I don't remember either. I was just wondering if your friend ever got it.
No, he got it. He got the show. He got everything. I just can't remember what the topic is at the moment.
I think it had to do with Danny Faulkner because that's when I said something about it.
No, that's fine. I just can't remember the subject matter. That's all. I know it happened because I recall it, but I can't remember the subject matter. But it'd be good when QE gets back from his trip to see that back and forth 6 years ago in text, messaging, and then see that he's still pushing it, even, I guess, till last Saturday.
Well, the proof that Christians lie is Danny Faulkner. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, Danny Faulkner is a fact. Well, you know what it is? I just don't think that, I don't know, it's this. It's got to be. But when so much proof is coming at you, how can you still rely on the same stories? Because that's all they are, stories. Nothing is validated.
He needs to justify, in my opinion, his 40 years, 4 decades plus in astronomy. He needs to validate that. He's written books on it before he jumped on the flat Earth thing. So that just destroys everything, his study, his masters, whatever he's got. It doesn't matter. And that's what's fueling everything. Has to be.
Well, I would say no. I would say he's being small-minded there. I wouldn't say that the Earth being a horizontal plane and not being a globe does anything to him. He just pre-assumes that it's a destruction for him in his own head. It doesn't change astronomy. That's still going to be what it's going to be. I mean,
no,
any way you like. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying it that way. Of course it's in his head. He's a glober. Okay, he's been pushing that. So astronomy works for us, not him.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you know,
sorry, go on, John.
I was just going to say what we know as astronomy today and what astronomy should be aren't the same things either.
I agree with that.
Except there's one way to validate it, and who's the clear winner is an elevation angle to any one of the navigational stars, and that's it. It's over right there. One elevation angle with a sextant, angle measuring device, two lines meeting at the vertex. Could never work from a curved baseline. The tool would be inoperable if you live on a globe. End of story.
That should be end game right there.
It is the end game.
It is.
No, but I mean for people that are like a Danny Faulkner, all these other meatballs that come in, it should be end game for their belief right there. But it's not.
No, it is, and they're fighting it just like there's arguments against other stuff that's happening in our society now. That's the end game, obvious, but they still fight it. You'll always have opposition to the truth.
Well, something that's funny about astronomy is that people used to, in the old times, and this is not me just making the claim, this is true. In the olden times, people used to learn astronomy through astrology, right? Now, if it comes down to it, and let's say I'm an astrologer and Danny Faulkner is an astronomer, and let's say he looks down his nose at astrology because it involves signs and the kind of personal life predictions, these kind of things, right? Okay, fair enough, I'll take that on board. But if it comes down to who can prove what they're claiming is happening in the sky is actually happening and who can't prove it, the astrologer, the person who is an astrologer, Libra, Aries, Cancer, all this, they can prove the cycles they're talking about. They can prove that these cycles, they can prove that all these things will repeat. Well, some things might take a bit more time. Some things can be 50, 60 years or whatever, but some things, they take 150 years to repeat, but they still repeat. And it's all there, all documented. So regardless of what predictions you want to make about Mars being close to whatever and how that's going to affect someone's life, as far as the celestial observations go, the astrologer can constantly support their claims, but the astronomer can't, because they're going to be bringing black holes and other nonsense into it that they can't show. There's no way, they don't exist, these things. These things are all based in general relativity. And go on. Sorry.
Here, let me put what you're saying to a simple test. I predict that tomorrow I will see the sunrise. Well, how can I predict that? Well, because I saw it today, I saw it yesterday, I've seen it all my life. Okay, well, what if it's cloudy? Well, it's still rising. The clouds are in the way, but it's still rising. That's the sunrise. Okay, the Babylonians, who believe they live on a flat plane, knew what the stars did, they knew the cycles, and they predicted. So, big deal. If it's going to repeat itself, then you can always predict it. But that doesn't mean you can go create a model that it's confined to, when that's just make up stuff.
Well, even at that, it's not a prediction at that point, is it? You're just referencing a cycle that always happens. Kind of like predicting that. Yeah, it's kind of like predicting that the hot cup of coffee is going to go cold. It's like, well, that always happens. So the chances are you're going to be correct. You know, all our most famous astronomers in their model, Brahe, Kepler, Galileo, all these people, they were all astrologers. They all learned astronomy through astrology. But most of the ballers, just like when QE pointed out years ago that the Big Bang came from Georges Lemaitre, a Jesuit Vatican priest, a Jesuit astronomer in the Vatican, none of them knew it. I had them arguing with me, and I had to prove it to them years ago. No, they were all astrologers. Kepler was renowned for it. He was renowned for being such a good astrologer. People used to pay a lot of money just to get him to do an astrology chart for him. So regardless of what people think about astrology, whether they believe in it or not, it doesn't matter. The point is these people learned what is called today astronomy through astrology. And astrology was never claimed to be science, but now they're trying to claim astronomy as science. And they want to laugh at astrology. Your astronomy, all the famous astronomers that you're using basically their data within all your claims, they were all astrologers originally. You know what I mean? And they didn't look down their nose at it. But Danny Faulkner, I have no doubt, I would be very surprised if he didn't look down his nose at astrology. You know, but it doesn't matter whether you believe in astrology or not. They can support what they say as far as the celestials go. You know, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Well, if it's the constellation and the month of your birth is astrology, and then people write your fortunes to it, that's one thing separate of what Danny's doing. And what Danny's got to come to realize is that you can say in the broader term, the science of astronomy, but science would have to be regulated to knowledge at this point, the knowledge of astronomy. Now, if you want to say, I want to prove my points about the stars, okay, that's scientific method. Okay, now that's specific to cause and effect. So now, what's the first part of that? An observation of something occurring naturally in nature. Okay, I could look at the sun. I could see its movements. Okay, we're all on board.
Right.
Now what are you going to do? After that, he's stuck. He can't take it through the scientific method. So it's not the real science of cause and effect. It's the knowledge of what you're seeing when you look at the stars. That's it. Knowledge of repeating cycles, as Brian said. And then you'd say, I predict. Well, it's happened for 2,000-3,000 years the same way. Big deal if you predict. I could predict.
Exactly. And I'll tell you something else that a lot of people don't understand is these little globe hoodwinks. And I'll use astrology as an example. They try and tell you that there's 365.25 days in a year. See that 0.25? That doesn't exist. We get our 24 hours from one solar noon to the other solar noon. That's exactly 24 hours. We calculate those 24 hours from that duration of time, of moments, right? That happens 365 times in a year. That means there isn't 365.25 days in a year. There is only 365 days in a year. And to even further support that, the globe has to rotate at a sidereal rate to match the stars, and the globe rotates within that model, claimed to be 366 times every year, right? Because it has to do one full rotation extra, right? Which is what the extra 4 minutes faster a day. You know the way that the stars are 4 minutes difference, or just over 4 minute difference from the sun. So a sidereal day and a solar day are different by just over 4 minutes, somewhere around that. So what that is, if you look at the calculation and you add it adds up to another day. That's what it does. So they have to claim that their globe rotates 366 times exactly to match the 365 solar days. Right? There's no 0.25. And people thinking, it's because the reason they're adding in the 0.25 is because they want people to believe that we are not in a constant cyclical system. They want people to believe that there's a small little change that happens every year because we're not in a cycle. No, there is no 0.25. There is 365 solar, 366 exactly sidereal, and they both match up exactly. And the reason they match up is because on my birthday, that Libra, right, because I'm a Libra, will be in this, the sun will be a Libra exactly as it was 45, will be this year 46 years ago. You know what I mean? So that's what it does. How we go from the age of Pisces or whatever into the age of Aquarius. I don't know what that change is going to be. I've never experienced it, but I know this much. I know that there is no 0.25 days extra in a year, because there can't be, because it's impossible based on what we define a day as. So little things like that. The globe always adds in these little things. There are little tentacles around everywhere, and people don't think about them. There is no 0.25. There's 365.
My favorite cyclical, nonsensical story in the heliocentric model is the one where they tell you they've got balls of dust and ice that are supposedly flying around the sun. And that ball of dust and ice can actually leave the solar system. And because gravity is so incredible, whatever the hell that is, it comes back to go around the sun again as the sun's moving at 500,000 miles per hour in the opposite direction.
Right. It's a super
That's my
orbit.
favorite one. Yeah.
It's a super orbit, Chocolate.
Super orbit. Yeah. That sounds great.
That reminds me of Wally and Wolfie using EQ mount telescopes and calling them Uber sextants.
What did they call them?
Uber sextants.
Uber. Oh my gosh.
Is that like a sextant of a different power level?
That is kind of true. Hold on. That is kind of true because you're when you program an equatorial mount, it uses an angle measurement from horizontal to follow objects in the sky above a certain degree off the horizon. So yeah, it kind of is doing that, using a flat Earth.
Yeah, that is true. Go on, Ted. I want to say that is true, but you're not going to be using one of those on a boat. Go on, sorry.
No, I'm just laughing at it because it's in the word equatorial mount. In the celestial navigation, you have a handheld Mariner sextant, and you're shooting the horizon supposedly from a curved surface, which would negate the use of the sextant. It would make it inoperable. But that's where they got you there. And then they say, yeah, but the books, all of what you do is coming from the equator. So even though you're there, the distance is only 39.59 miles from the equatorial plane. And we're going to use the math there, but we're going to have you do an imaginary fictitious horizontal line at your eye line with a bubble sextant, or you can use the horizon at sea, but you got to get your eyeballs on the sea, which is the difference between two lines, as John said. Okay, and then they back calculated with R to get their globe. But when it comes to the equatorial mount, okay, it is no longer using the Earth, the terrestrial, as the reference plane. It's using the sky as the map. So now the sky is now the map, not the Earth. And this is why everyone anywhere in the world could just give a coordinates, and wherever you are, you can point and see the same star. Because the other one is the alt-as, observer dependent. This one is not observer dependent because they're using the sky as the map. Well, when you look into it, you find out it's called the equatorial mount telescope. So basically, they've extended the horizon, the equator, that equatorial plane of a flat disk, all the way to the celestial sphere. That's all they've done. You can't see anything below that. You have to wait until it comes above that plane. The equatorial mount and the right ascension declination, minimum of 4 axes, whereas the alt-as is 2 axes. So they put a tripod and they do what alt-as does. They set you to Polaris and they do your azimuth so that you got the right longitude, latitude, Cartesian reference on that flat plane that they have you on. Then on top of that, you mount the equatorial mount telescope, and that's the thing you only move, but you have to be level, you have to be set at the latitude that you're at, and that's why I could be in my latitude and someone else could be at a different latitude, and all I need is the coordinates, and we just go there and we both see the same thing. Well, what is that all based on? Equatorial mount, a flat plane.
Yeah, the equatorial plane. That's what I go to whenever anybody brings up the equatorial mount. It's like, what does equatorial mean? Where is this concept derived from? What's it utilizing? What's it referencing? And it's always, as always, coming back to a flat plane. There's never any exception, it seems, no matter how or where you dig your rabbit hole. Flat Earth at the end of it. You don't have to like it.
Yeah, I'm
at the bottom of the glass. Flat Earth is waiting for you.
Well, the globe Earth was built on a flat plane, and everything that they built was designed to be flexible with the real world data, which is a flat plane. So yeah, everything about the globe works exactly the way it does because it's all derived from a flat plane.
Yeah, you can't build buildings. You can't build the buildings on a sphere. It ain't gonna work.
Nathan, I posted a slide in Master D. If you can go look at it, post it.
Okay.
Okay, so in this slide, you're going to see all the constellations, the ecliptic, and you're going to see the sun heliocentric universe model here. And they got the Earth just outside there. And of course, they're going to show you the Earth tilt, except guess what date? This is a big clue, boys. Not you guys on the panel, but the ones listening, and girls, should I say. Spring equinox. What's the spring equinox? What is that, somebody? Where's the sun on the spring equinox?
At the equator. It's going around the equator.
Oh, yeah, because as Brian said, the cycles are repeated every year. It goes from the equator to the highest point, 23.4, then it comes down back to the equator for the autumnal equinox, the winter equinox, where it crosses the equator again. And then it goes down below the equator, or in this case, south of the equator, and then 23.4, no more. So we know what the sun does. It doesn't do anything else. It always does that. It takes a whole year to do. Now, I've been told the moon does that once a month, but let's just stick with the sun. So the sun has a path, and the path is repeated year after year. 2 times it goes over the equator, and you have equal amount of sunlight on Earth and equal amount of darkness on Earth. And guess what it does when it's at that position? It negates Earth tilt. There is no Earth tilt because of the sunlight being equal amount on those days. Now, what is spring equinox known for? The date. They use this date to map the sky. Everything is in reference. Everything is in reference to this date. Even when it passes that date and it's going 23 north, they're still using that date when they access Equatorial Mount Telescope. It's from that date and the positions of the stars around the sun on that date. Well, this is picture show you the plane of the ecliptic. That's the date they use. The plane.
Is the plane of the ecliptic, is that going to be parallel with eye level and sea level?
Where are they getting the elevation angles from? Equatorial plane. And now you're on the plane. It's a plane. It's a plane.
All it has to be is a plane situated horizontally. Then there you go. It's parallel.
It shows it right here. It's the plane of the ecliptic that they read the stars with the right ascension declination equatorial mount telescopes based on the date when everything in their model lines up on a plane with no Earth tilt to be found.
The model that they don't have.
The model that they don't have.
Perfect way for me to round out. So with that, I'll say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!